stop. Outside, inside, we don't stop. Global, worldwide, we don't stop. From the bottom to the top, we don't stop. From the burbs to the block, we don't stop. Outside, inside, we don't stop. Global, worldwide, we don't stop. From the bottom to the top, we don't stop. From the burbs to the block, we don't stop. Outside, inside, we don't stop. Global, worldwide, we don't stop. From the burbs to the block, we don't stop.
Some updates to Destin, a new vehicle, and special new skins. All this and more as we dive into the Update 19.2 patch report. First up, Destin is getting some additional cover in several areas, as well as more cell towers, ascenders, and fuel pumps. You'll also now notice the passage of time and even shifting weather patterns in your Destin games. If your match is going long and you're starting to feel hangry, look out for the newest Battlegrounds vehicle, the food truck. This sturdy vehicle holds a driver and passenger, while up to 2 others serve up hot food and even hotter lead in the back. There's also new heavy stock in the game to try out on your favorite stock-slotted weapon. You may remember us talking about an animation refresh some time back. This update, you'll start to see the fruits of those efforts with new animations for all weapon operations and player motions. Check them out and let us know what you think. For those looking to really pimp their ride, we've added new special vehicle skins to the game. Our first set will turn your run-of-the-mill Coupe RB into a sleek and sexy McLaren GT. Customized paint, rims, and even your brakes. These customizations can be crafted in the workshop or by collecting rewards from the new McLaren Crafter's Pass. But before you go betting your pink slip, while it may look like a McLaren, it still performs like a regular old coupe. There's quite a bit more to learn about these updates and more, so check out the patch notes for full details. Update 19.2 is here, so drop in, wax up that new McLaren, and serve up some chicken dinner, extra bullets. We'll see you on the battlegrounds.
myself, I'm gonna handle it all. Nothing you could do to stop what's coming. A one-man army, you hear the drummer drumming. I'm running through everything, my team on my back. This for my people, and this for my people. Ain't no turning back. I'ma end it all. For the ones who ain't here, I'ma end it all. And the ending is near. When the chips is down, at the end of the day, no matter what happens, that's what you say. Tell them we got it. Tell them we far from done.
Welcome back for PCS 7 APAC. It's week 2, day number 2. Things continue to heat up here for what is arguably the most contested region, let's be honest, Jordan. Probably the most entertaining region as well when it comes to the games at hand. At the moment, we kind of pick up where we last left off with Cerberus well and truly on top, but it's, you know, a pretty, what I would say, I guess, a margin that's not too unreachable for the teams below them.
Yeah, look, I think in a way the gap did close a little bit yesterday, though you got to say it was a really good day for Day Trade, Theraton 5 and Cerberus. So when we look at the pack as a whole, it sort of feels like the big three once again re-solidified their place toward the top end of the standing. And then, well, I suppose there was a few that were still sort of putting in a good chase. MS Chonburi, SGD, Expendables, NGE, they all had relatively decent days yesterday, kept themselves within that race. But yeah, we're starting to get a bit of an idea, obviously, now with only 2 days of games remaining, who will be walking away with PGC placement points and who will be walking away with that PGC slot. Cerberus looking good for that at the moment. It just seems like even when they're not quite on their best day, no one else is really getting enough done to catch up with them. That first day was just amazing from Cerberus, and it's kind of carried them through. They've just been chipping away, getting enough done over the other days that, well, they're still holding on to first.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, obviously, we've kind of started to think about the PGC points and all of that and how that's going to look. We'll continue to touch on that throughout today. And, of course, for tomorrow, which, well, speaking of tomorrow, that will be our last day for both APAC and Americas. But don't fret. Of course, the following week then begins the gauntlet for Asia and, of course, for Europe as well. And I guess a reminder, so sort of where we're at today. It's Erangel Day. 3 matches of Erangel, followed by then 2 matches of Miramar. Of course, then going into tomorrow, it will then reverse. So it's all about the busy end of the stage now. Jordan, how quick PCS always seems to go by.
Yeah, indeed. It is it's sort of one of those things, isn't it, right? When you've only got a couple of weekends to play with, it does feel like it slips on by. Here's what we're sort of talking about, though. Here's the big chops. It's the prize pool. $80,000 for first place is a pretty big deal, especially for a lot of these teams that, you know, maybe aren't the ones that are getting massive salaries and that kind of thing on the global stage of PUBG. So, yeah, good stuff so far from the very vast majority of the teams that we expect to be performing. Day Trade actually have done much better this week. I'm a little bit mad about that because I did take the Day Trade player out of my roster for the Fantasy League this week. So it hasn't worked out so well for me, but I am happy to say I have got rostered a junior once again. So still got a top 5 player in there. Happy days.
Yeah, I think you can obviously see, for those unaware, that going into week 2, you very much could change your lineup for the Fantasy Twire League, hence why Tycon now up to 25% picked after the first week where he led the way and only was picked by 1%. Unfortunately, I am still at the very bottom here when it comes to our colleagues in APAC. I am 1 point shy of cracking 300. That, I'm sure, will happen tonight. But unfortunately, Jordan, I've fallen into the Canaxi trap 2 weeks in running. I went with him in the first week, and I thought there's no way he's going to play well, that average again, and he's got me 4 points. Everyone else around 30-something plus, so Canaxi letting me down. But look at Chunks out on top, 386 points. I didn't actually see whether or not he changed his team up all that much, but a pretty good make-up there.
I think they both Chunks and Saga did change things up a little bit. I will say, look, those guys, they're doing well when it comes to the Fantasy League. But hey, when it comes to the photo game, you and I, we're the male models of the broadcast, so who's really winning?
Exactly right. All right, let's go to the total leaderboard here for PCS 7 APAC. As alluded to before, Cerberus Esports still well and truly on top. 26-point lead now, so they've increased that by 6 points after last night, but they've increased it over, I guess, a different competitor at the end of week 1. It was SGD that was in second. Now it's Theraton 5, so SGD dropping to third. And another team that's kind of dropped away, Buriram, Jordan, out of the top 4 into 5th place after a shocking night last night. And it could have big repercussions.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, obviously, Day Trade now as well starts to become a little bit more of that conversation. I think at the end of last week, we were really talking about Cerberus, Theraton 5, and SGD more than anything else because Day Trade had fallen off a little bit. They picked it up a little bit yesterday, and actually they had the best day of anyone yesterday. So they get themselves back into that conversation. It is still a little bit of a ways off, but with 2 days worth of games to go, it does feel like a 32-point deficit. It's not impossible to overtake, even if you're going all the way down to Day Trade. But I think when we're looking at all the teams that are capable of walking away with the PGC slot, it has to really just be a discussion around Cerberus, Theraton 5, SGD, and Day Trade. That said, obviously there's a lot of intricacies when it comes through to the PGC points, and even for a team like Team Bliss, who's in 13th at the moment, they're definitely still within a realistic shot of making it through to PGC if they have 2 decent nights to sort of close things out. I'm not sure that 13th at the moment is going to be enough for them. The Expendables also sort of sitting in hot water in 12th, but for both of those 2 teams, even if like they got up to, say, for example, 10th or 9th or 8th or something like that, which is really quite realistic for them, you know, they're only about 20 points away from that, they could still be punching their ticket through to PGC.
And obviously, I guess, sort of bringing it back slightly there onto Buriram United, 57 points. You know, you kind of referenced the 32 points down to day trade. I think we could both agree anyone inside of the top 4 can still win the whole thing. But I think for Buriram United, 57 points, they have to have a big night tonight and then sort of back it up again tomorrow. MS Chonburi, they're on 120 points, so they are 77 points behind the top team. Of course, they actually got the final chicken dinner of the night last night, which has kind of kept them in the conversation. But for a team that, of course, did not play in PCS 6, that is currently not in the top 5, for MS Chonburi, it's do or die. They have to go massive tonight and massive tomorrow. Hope that they can get into the top 4, top 3, other things go their way. So, you know, they're a bit of a long shot, but don't count them out just yet. But when I look at Genius Esports, Jordan, when I look at E-Arena, we saw a bit of those 2 teams a little bit back on week 1, from day 2, day 3, etc. They had some good moments, but unfortunately, they've just not quite been able to match the strength that we've seen from, say, our top 4, top 5 teams. They've fallen to about 7th and 8th now, respectively. They didn't play PCS 6. It's looking pretty much virtually impossible to see them getting into PGC from here, but as long as they can finish strong for their campaign for PCS 7, who knows what could set them up, I guess, for next year. So yeah, we've kind of gone and done the homework. We've got the teams in mind that we'll be kind of keeping track of over tonight and tomorrow to see, of course, the teams that will represent the APAC region at PGC. And really in that sort of homework, Jordan, we've kind of almost sort of, I don't want to say locked in 3 teams, but Day Trade, Theraton 5, and Cerberus. We don't want to lock them in. We don't want to look a bit silly, but they're like 99.9%.
Well, I mean, end of the day, it's not really our call to make, is it? Like, it's definitely one of those things where, as a caster, you don't want to make that grand sweeping statement and say, yeah, they're definitely going, and then it comes down to like some weird tiebreaker intricacy where they, for some reason, don't make it. I don't know. So look, I'm going to go ahead and say 99% sure that we're going to be seeing those 3 teams, Day Trade, Theraton 5, and Cerberus, going through to PGC, but I'm not going to 100% it right now.
No.
I'd never want to say anything like that, just because, again, it's not my call to make. We'll wait and see those results to come through officially, but they're definitely looking good. And obviously, those other slots, I mean, they're very much still up in the air. Bliss, Expendables, Archangel Predator, SGD, even Unicorn Phoenix, who's not playing, and Buriram too. They're all really interested in how these last couple of days are going to go, and I still feel like it could really be anyone at this point.
Yeah, we kind of mapped it out. 3 spots, we think, you know, beyond Day Trade T5 Cerberus, 3 more spots then from about 6 teams that we've kind of mapped out that are in contention. But we'll worry about that throughout the night and, of course, throughout tomorrow. At the moment, though, we head into Erangel to kickstart day number 2 of week 2 for PCS 7 APAC. And very important matches here on Erangel to start the night. Realistically, once Erangel is done, there's then only 7 matches remaining. And if you are a team that's hopeful of winning the entire event to get into PGC or finishing high to get those points, or if you are sort of down the bottom and in that sort of little battle with the Expendables and Bliss and obviously Archangel Predator, Buriram, for example, as well, sort of amongst that, very vital points here to be collected. And by the way, interesting fact here, but obviously for the Expendables and Team Bliss, Jordan, both battling each other, right? When it comes to one of those PGC slots, 12th place Expendables, 82 points. 13th place Team Bliss on 80 points, so 2-point gap. But that gap is 15 PGC points, so actually quite massive.
It's quite significant.
Yeah, when you sort of break that down. Although our in-game leaderboard is saying the Expendables are on 90, so I'm not sure if that one's correct or the Liquipedia, but we'll, of course, worry about that later. But still, pretty significant when it comes to maybe just one place here or there, or a couple of points here or there, as the Orangutans who can going to be able to steal this vehicle away from T5 over at Bruins. We do get our phase 1 circle. Shelter side, mansion side, and yeah, the Orangutans up to no good. They did steal the vehicle, but Rain has been sort of left behind here, and Exquisite will find the opening kill, and he will collect all those points, none to Rosita Jr., but yeah, bit of a strange start.
Why do you Why do you have to point out the fact that the guy on my fantasy team isn't getting any of those points? Like,
Well, he's on my team too now.
what have I done? What have I done to deserve this?
Well, I don't know what the orangutans have done here to get themselves in this mess.
Well, to be fair, I guess they tried to snake the vehicle away, and it hasn't really worked out for them. And unfortunately, not really too much to be said on for origami orangutans this week. Last week was quite a positive surprise for them, but this week hasn't quite put together too much just yet. Another little bit of change up here for Genius Esports. Zest is out, and Utah is in. So they've had a little bit of a rotating core. Glorious has had a bit of a better time, I felt like, this week, but I didn't have him in my fantasy team. So a bit disappointed by that one. Zizzy and J Spark at the swap for E Arena. It does seem like a few teams are sort of trying to sort of mess around with what they've got in terms of their composition. They're four for each day. But I think by and large, the top teams, the ones that are sort of expected to perform, and the ones that we're most interested in as well, Xenox, they're not making much of a change up at all. They are sticking to the tried and true.
Yeah, realistically, I think you don't want to be making changes in the middle of a tournament. I think having a 5-man squad is actually really valuable. We've seen that in the past. I think Buriram United, of course, especially in the APAC region, well and truly known for that. When they were at the peak of their powers, they basically had 5 players that you could just interchange any of them. But swapping in the middle of a tournament, it's not ideal. Obviously, if it's forced upon you for whatever reason, that's fine. But I guess it all depends on the team and where they're at. Maybe this was something that was planned coming into the event. Maybe you want to sort of just trial things out, see how things go. So every team's different. Every team has different environment, issues or things that they want to test out. So it's a little bit tricky, obviously. But in an ideal world, you want your same 4. You want that consistency. As Amos Chomburi probably want to find a couple of kills here onto From the Future. Like I said, to start the night, they are going to need a massive night tonight. They finished off with the chicken dinner. Obviously, to close yesterday, 120 points, 20 points behind Buriram. That basically has to be step 1, get above Buriram. Step 2 would then be to make their way into the top 4. It's not unachievable, 45 points at the moment, still with 10 games to play, but they have to get a wriggle on.
Yeah, I mean, look, even though we've done the calculations, I don't think we've realistically put MSC in with a chance. So that's kind of where, if anyone wanted to get a bit of an insight where they're sort of feeling, at least for us, we don't really feel as though there's enough time left for MSC to realistically get their way through to PGC. Like, it would have to be 2 absolutely insane days, kind of unheard of days for MSC to be able to get their way through. They'd need to be in a similar kind of a position to where SGD is at the moment, finishing top 3. But hey, if they start off well, if they are able to win this 4-on-4 and clean up 4 points right off the outset, then you never know. Maybe there is a world where MSC can just kind of rampage through things. Their job is made a little bit more difficult, of course, by not having picked up too many points in PCS 6. They didn't play, so obviously going to mean that they're going to have something in the realms of a top 3 placing here to make it through to PGC. So yeah, always going to be tough when you don't play both seasons of PCS. And again, that's why we always talk about consistency being very important in PUBG. Not even just within each season, but throughout the year, if you're wanting to look towards a sort of another step in your career, I suppose. And that, of course, is what PGC really is.
We'll put it this way, I guess, for the teams that participated in PCS 6 and are also participating in PCS 7, every single one of those teams is in contention still for a PGC slot. And I don't just mean that in the sense that it could mathematically happen. I mean, like, they are literally right in there with a good chance. All of them. AAP, Expendables, Team Bliss, and Archangel Predator only picked up 25 points in PCS 6, but that goes a long way. That's 25 points that your competitors that are here in PCS 7 do not have. So it really does sort of signify how important it is to be playing in both tournaments.
I mean, we've seen how much of a difference that even can make in the case of Team Bliss and the Expendables, right? Team Bliss is in 13th place right now. The Expendables are in 10th. But as far as the PGC points are concerned, right now they're equal going into PGC. So even the 15-point difference that Bliss and Expendables came into this season with does make a pretty significant difference. And every single point matters. I know we always say that. It's a bit cliche, isn't it? But sometimes it really does come down to a 5-point difference, a 2-point difference, a 1-point difference. In fact, even in APAC, we've seen not even a point difference mattering. We've seen kill differential as a tiebreaker. For Fury, for example, not winning that season. So it really does come down to these kinds of things.
Well, speaking of coming down, 777 goes down to Sophia. Easy kill there for SGD. They did get Shen knocked down, and they might lose a second here. Young B from NGE, well, gets the down onto Sophia with a bit of help from Ninja 2K. We know that Young B actually did the majority of it, though, but that is a disaster start for SGD. Despite getting the kill, you're losing both Sophia and Shen. Ninja 2K obviously wanting to go and clean up, knowing that Shen is down, Sophia is down. They can get maybe 2 kills on this. But here comes Jervis and Leo, and I like this. They've got to contest to get at least one of these 2 back up. More importantly, I think Sophia, Shen's probably long gone, but inside of the smoke, Ninja 2K will run past him, but it's suddenly a bit of a chaos, and then Leo, Jervis pushed out. It's just Leo that's left now.
I think they've bitten off a little more than they can chew here. SGD are down to just Leo. And Jervis, he was trying to take some control. He was probably still in the back of his mind sort of thinking, yeah, maybe there's a word where we can get Shen back up. But ultimately, that has been a big, big mistake. And the Expendables, they're going to walk away with this. They're going to obviously do it with just the 3 players alive. They did lose 777. Leo, though, I can't imagine he gets more than that initial knock. And so Ninja will be getting picked back on up. And not exactly the start to the night that SGD would have been looking for. This was... I think going to be a pretty important night for SGD, considering Daytrade is so close behind them now. And Daytrade played really well yesterday. SGD have got to be a little bit worried.
It's massive for the Expendables as well, Jordan. You know, when we were looking into the calculations of what maybe teams may potentially need, we had it as top 8 for the Expendables, and now only 9 points behind E-Arena. So that is certainly a job that they can complete from this point onwards into the end of PCS 7, right up there, with a good opportunity to still get that PGC slot, especially if they're going to be playing like that. And I think what really just sort of aided them in that situation was the swiftness in their approach. You know, you saw that Ninja 2K, despite even losing 777, they just pushed in. They knew that they had SGD on the ropes, pushed in really quick, cleaned them up. 4 kills, you lose 1, but it's job done, and it's definitely a worthy trade. It's Theraton 5 on the rotate, same with AAP.
Yeah, AAP, they're an interesting prospect, aren't they? I think they're one of those teams that I had really, really high hopes for coming into this year, and they just didn't really manage to convert any of that in PCS 6, and it hasn't exactly been their week in PCS 7 either last week. They are the team that's actually got the most votes, though. Seems like there's a lot of fan turnout for Archangel Predator. The Philippines really getting behind them. But, yeah, certainly a far cry from the days of old where they were like actually a real contester, where they were a team that you'd expect to see in the top 3. PMA, they've been fun. I like PMA. I mean, I'm a bit of a fan of the Malaysian region for one reason or another, but alongside SGD, I think it's kind of nice to have a little bit of representation from there, somewhere that we actually haven't seen too many players coming from within the history of PCS APAC.
Our next circle right towards Lipovka. Bit of prison as well. Buram in that location. Orja, you're looking to sort of reconvene. PMA, as being spoken about, really in one of the better positions for this kind of circle. Orja, that will flip back. Physics and all. Buram United, of course, a disaster night for them last night, Jordan. They ended things on week 1 in 3rd place, and it was looking like PGC was well and truly within their grasp. It was one of those sort of situations where it was kind of in their hands. And unfortunately, they let it slip last night. Man, missing out on that spray and will get punished on the drive-by from MS Chonburi. Julio will collect in the 3-man vehicle that was being led forward by Jobjab. He even entries on the rotate, not just in the field of battle. Duck Jews now leads the way for the Expendables 2, driving south side of Mansion. They'll be going past the compound of Icarus, and they've got Buram as well. Close by, AT landing quite a decent tag there from that kind of distance on the Ductors in front there for the Expendables, but he gets by, remembering they've only got the 3 players. They cannot afford to lose another on the rotate.
Yeah, indeed. Daytrade, they might actually run into a bit of a problem here as well. KMF is pretty close by. Mr. Clay copping some shots, but they're not aware of this PMA player that's right close up underneath them on the hill. Chills is kind of keeping an eye on things. He's having a bit of a look around. It's a very big split here from PMA. I would be quite surprised if KMF wanted to actually take the fight. But if Daytrade were to sort of put a foot wrong, then he would definitely be able to punish them for it. Raj, unlucky not to hit anything on that first spray. He'd get himself a headshot on the way out, but not able to find the knock. And Day trade kind of need to be very, very careful at the moment. KMF has got himself a nade, but I'm not sure that's going to really result in too much. Just gets tossed into the smoke, and he's going to try and get out of there. Wouldn't be feeling very comfortable if I was PMA, to be honest. I think it would be a very high-risk scenario to be starting a fight right here when you're so split, and the cover doesn't look so fantastic for them. This looks fun. That could be us, Xenox.
Could be. Another reality. The Origami Orangutans, though, Jordan, 12th at the moment, 84 points. It's been a good stage from them. First time, of course, in the PCS APAC position. Not for all of their players, but as a team. And this is a disaster. Oh, Noran's turnaround shot onto Zizzy. I mean, well, from a disaster to basically a free kill for Day Trade. A good reaction time from Norans keeps him alive, but really for how much longer? Smoke out, has the tree for cover, but he needs someone to come and collect him. 30 seconds until phase 3.
Bit of a stalemate happening in Mansion right now. MSC and FTF. How do they keep running into each other? Order's got himself a care package. Not too bad. Or is it picked up? And where does the next circle go? This one's a bit interesting. Obviously, a lot of the water still involved, so quite a bit of unplayable terrain. If we shift it even any further out to the east, that's going to be quite disastrous for most teams, but it's about as good as it's going to get. Team Bliss actually have quite a nice split for a zone like this. They've got players all the way down the south coast, but I'd expect we're going to see them grouping their way up in towards the Povka. No real need for Bryn to be so far south anymore. We should just be going straight back into the center of the zone when phase 4 kicks in. More points on the board for Cerberus as well, keeping themselves at the top end. Almost about to break that 200-point mark, Xenox. And yeah, I mean, I think it's hard to imagine that they're going to get overtaken anymore. I mean, if it hasn't happened already, Cerberus have sort of just been able to keep themselves afloat. I don't know that they're going to get taken down anymore.
Opportunity here, I think. Brewing, Expendables have Arena pushing up onto them, but it's only the 2 players, so this should honestly be very, very winnable for the Expendables. Oh, from the other side, though, Doctor has got extra Cedar Jr. Just when they had their attention to Arena. Teraton 5 made their entrance in from behind, but it's a messy one, and they lost 2 players for it, and Arena go down anyway.
Oh, here comes GE as well. Hang on, just a minute, Xenox, because this is going to be a little more than just a couple of teams to play with. Patton Pong is done. That's the end of Teraton 5, the Expendables. I don't even know how many more they're holding on to, and Team Bliss is here too. What an absolute mess this bowl is starting to turn into. Just the exit of Lipovka, and everyone is trying to get involved. Those are 3 really healthy kills for Team Bliss, who are in desperate need of points at the moment, and they've been gifted them. They have really been gifted them. A bunch of teams just decide to rock up and have a bit of a how you going. I don't even know if Team Bliss was invited, but they certainly gate crashed that party, and turns out they had the most fun.
That last minute could honestly be replayed and maybe dissected over the course of about 20 minutes if you were to slow everything down, and we'd still probably miss a kill or 2. So much that has transpired there in a short amount of time, and you had Team Bliss, of course, one of the teams to benefit. I mean, look at the teams that have now actually left the lobby here in this match. T5, SGD from the top 3, gone. Genius, E-Arena, the Expendables gone as well. More teams inside of the top 10, so a chance for those that are outside of the top 10 to collect, I guess, some very valuable points and try and push themselves closer to a top 10 position. And yeah, I think Bliss played that perfectly. That push out to collect the kills, to get involved. Probably not the Team Bliss we saw in week 1, but good signs from them to show their aggression in pushing out of, obviously a very good position in Lipovka, knowing that there's not really going to be teams pushing behind them. They've got obviously Inside on the north side, Monty on the south side, to make sure that the teams that potentially may want to look to send it into Lipovka will not get in unnoticed at the very least. And then you got Mirage pushing out as we get our phase 4 circle right on top of basically that bowl position, Jordan. And well, funnily enough, there's no one really left there.
Well, you can understand why it was such a hot area. Everyone kind of knew that this circle was going to move away from the water, and very, 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 very likely, in fact, almost impossible for that for that to not be inside of the next zone. And it's not a bad place to play. The problem, I think, is, it's just classic APAC, isn't it, right? Where we're not really scouting anything. We're just going to send it and kind of hope for the best. And there's already one team there. We'll just keep going. If there's already two teams there, we'll just keep going. And I think actually Team Bliss ended up being the fourth or fifth team to sort of join that engagement. It was the Expendables up against Theraton 5, and that sort of obviously went quite poorly for Theraton 5 to start things off. And then you had E-Arena join, and Mirage and Monty, I think, were the two from Team Bliss that sort of were like not really super committed to that fight. They were just more interested in taking a look out of Lipovka. They themselves were kind of playing it correctly, in my opinion. A little bit slower, doing a little bit of scouting, having a bit of a look, and taking what they could get, but there was no like full send coming through from Team Bliss, and as a result, they were the ones that walked away with a really favorable result. Now we've got From the Future on their rotation past, and they might well end up running into Bryn, who has looked to be a little bit of a flank player for Team Bliss tonight. He's sitting on the outskirts, sitting on the edges. Was watching South before, now he's watching North.
Shots from CJ. And yeah, I mean, that Brim position there, that's sort of what I highlighted before, the way that Team Bliss going to have Lipovka on lockdown. He would have been able to sort of notify From the Future's arrival. And I'm sure that Bliss, from what I can see on the map, yeah, they've gone and obviously now trying to get rid of them, almost like an infestation that's come into their city that they want to exterminate. They know they're here. They know they've just arrived. They know they're locked down inside of the warehouse. This should be 3 kills for Team Bliss. And if they can do it clean, they'll go up to 6 kills, 4 alive, with a really good position to close out this game. This could be the match to turn things around for PCS 7. Over to Kang, though. The other Australian team, Julio driving by, gets a little bit of air. One outside of the passenger seat. That's Job Jab and Skeet, both taken down. Big knocks for the orangutans, courtesy of Kang, but under pressure. Jowman lands the tag. Jowman gets the knock, and it's only Rip now that is left alive for the orangutans. Can they at least maybe take MS Chompuri with them?
Well, the nade that ripped through, unfortunately, is not going to do any damage to Jowman. The one responding in kind will certainly do a little bit. Molotov over the top. Rip at 75 HP. He's not feeling too bad about this fight, but does really need to win it. Otherwise, MSC can get a couple of players up, I think. How many have they got on the floor? Reservoir? None, actually. They all bled out. Jowman is the last alive, so it was the 1v1 ultimately. That doesn't really result in too much of a favorable result for MSC, but either way, an extra point on the board, and considering they're still trying to hang on to 5th, then that is something of value. Circle does move on top of Buriram, and they do need a big result tonight. They had a pretty tough night last night. They could start off with a win. We'll start to feel a little bit more excited about their chances. Bit awkward there for Evil Patrick with the shotgun, but CJ has got it done onto Y8, and Icarus feeling the pressure from Archangel Predator.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie, I was more so looking at the kill feed there because I saw 2 players of Cerberus get knocked down. It was Umkid and Himas. PMA with a much, much better position here above on the rocks, eastern side of prison. That high ground advantage, so difficult to navigate. Hisaki doing what he can to get above, but he couldn't find what he was looking for. Tycon, I think he had Pete aggressing onto him. There's another one you see on the rocks. He's just standing there. Tycon just took a little bit of time and he gets punished.
It was the gun.
Oh,
I think the gun blocked his vision, and he just didn't really quite see it, and that's going to be the end of it. So Cerberus, PMA, they get away with a bit of a cheeky one. And they got themselves 4 kills on the board, so we'll take that. And I think most teams will probably look at that quite happily as well and say, yeah, Cerberus, get them out of here. We need to catch up. Day Trade, in particular, are the ones that stand to gain a lot out of this game.
Yep.
Obviously, Buriram as well. But those are the 2 big forces that are still battling.
And this is good for Buriram as well, this kind of game. With T5, SGD, both out of the equation. Points that they can get to climb up to that top 4 on offer. AAP on the move. All 4 players alive. Mirage landed a tag or 2. Just couldn't get the down that he was looking for, but that's okay. I think Team Bliss so far playing this game perfectly. They've moved obviously well and truly away from Lipovka, but now rather than spread and playing flanks and going for information, they're holding a little bit closer to each other. 4-man leading out, peeking, trying to get these tags. It's a little bit different than what we saw last week, where it was a bit more condensed, sitting back, holding positions. They know that AAP actually down on the other side of this hill. I mean, this is a pretty good position to move on. If you are Team Bliss, you will have the higher ground advantage here. AAP will be looking up the hill, and it will be quite difficult to then push on to Bliss. So we'll see if they actually go for the full engage. They may look to just obviously calm things down a little bit. Still early days, Jordan. I mean, we're only into phase 5, 40 seconds to go. 7 teams, 23 alive. It's been a massacre here on the eastern side of Erangel.
This is going to be one of those fights, though, where the first knock is going to be so crucial. And, I mean, just look at the ground that you have to cover if you're Team Bliss. I don't think you can realistically be pushing into Archangel Predator at all. Mad Dog's got such a great angle, a little bit of a headshot line for him. And it does seem as though Archangel Predator are aware of Team Bliss's location. Certainly some shots starting to come through now will be alerting them to that fact. And actually, I don't quite like it for Team Bliss anymore. Day Trade on one side, Archangel Predator on the other. They're in the middle of the sandwich, and barring a massive feed, I don't think they get out of this one alive. And even then, you know, what do they get? This might actually be perfect because they can just get on the move. If they just get out of there, like, and this is what might sort of prompt them to do that with a circle shift like that, to just get out. I don't know, though, if they've done it quickly enough. If they are going to do it at all, it's not looking very good.
Well, you said
unless your name's Buriram.
Yeah, well, you said the word feed, and right now Buriram have copped a massive phase 6 feed onto their compound, the only compound left as well. They won't have to leave. Teams will have to crash them, and the only way that this can really go wrong for Buriram is if there's a way 2, 3 teams all crash that compound at the exact same time to create enough chaos and confusion that maybe Brew end up losing a player or two. Jowman goes down to the zone, so 6 teams left, and obviously I think Mirage should be safe to get revived after being knocked down. Insight will confirm that, but they will have to get moved, and they will not be able to take this fight with AAP. And honestly, I feel like you can say the same for every team right now, Jordan. The goal should now be, instead of fighting Edge, maybe you just send it into the compound.
It really, I think, has to be a send for Team Bliss. If they stick around in between Archangel Predator and Day Trade, they are going to be in a real spot of bother. There's just nowhere to go. Insight's gone down. Again, now a bigger problem than when they lost a player earlier because that zone is starting to shift. So it might be a world where Insight does get left for dead. We'll have to wait and see. PMA, they've tried to make their way in, but that's opened up a firing angle for Belmoth, and he started to get some shots in. Day Trade are in a fantastic spot to farm on the edge of this zone. Archangel Predator taking that fight against NGE. They've actually moved away, so that's given a bit of breathing room to Team Bliss. So, one man's trash is another man's treasure, I suppose, and Team Bliss may be very happy to see how this has played out. Even now, Monty claiming one on the way out, gets an extra point from CJ, but Mirage drops in the meanwhile. So, it's not as if this is going to be an easy run for Team Bliss, but it kind of feels doable now, given the fact that Archangel Predator have moved from one of their sides, and it's sort of freed them up to just worry about what's happening with Day Trade. And they've also recognized this fight has not gone well for either NGE or Archangel Predator, and they'll just try and send it in that direction. It's going to be the loss of Monty, but maybe at least a couple of these Bliss members can get through it alive. Mad Dog firing some shots in. Nordra also has an angle. I might have spoken too soon. I think Team Bliss really pretty much down and out. Bren will claim another before he drops, but how long can he survive there? I mean, that's not very good cover, I'm afraid.
No, it's obviously the worst kind of cover that you can really have. And yeah, unfortunately for Bryn, does not save him from those bullets. Does go down. Buriram will collect the points. They will collect the kills. Mad Dog fell as well. So only Evil Patrick left alive for Archangel Predator. It's looking like almost a sure thing that Buriram may take this game, unless they can get a shift away from them. But even then, I don't think there's any kind of circle shift that is going to take that entire compound away. It does go towards Day Trade, who do get a reprieve. At the very least, had that gone more towards Evil Patrick, probably would have made things really bad for Day Trade. But Flash Poochil's clearly inside of the circle. Nurant has to still cross the road. But the one thing for Day Trade, they've still got 4 players alive. The only other team besides Buriram that have that chance. What's interesting, though, is the winner chicken dinner percentage is apparently favoring Day Trade. I find that a little bit strange, considering the compound situation here. Either way, Poochil's peeks over. Bit of a tag from Teddy, and Flash gets taken down by Nordra.
Well, I think it does take into account a little bit as well the performances of the teams up to that point, you know, in recent times. And I don't think there's really been much of an argument to say that Day Trade hasn't been a slight bit better than Buriram, so maybe that's why it's giving them the benefit of the doubt. They do have some reasonable zone control, and, you know, when we're talking about it in that respect, there's also Evil Patrick kind of just hanging around behind Buriram, not going to be a real factor in an engagement against Day Trade, but there is possibly a world where he could get a knock onto one of these Buriram players. PMA perhaps also a little bit more of a threat to Buriram than to Day Trade. So I don't think it's out of the realms of possibility that Day Trade could actually win this one. But they're going to really want to play it as slowly as possible. See if these extra teams that are floating around are going to be able to cause a ruckus for Buriram. Because there is no question that Buriram have the god spot in this final zone. It's just whether or not something goes wrong for them could be the big difference maker.
And of course, Jordan, Canaxi's got the only player on the team with no kills. It just seems to be that kind of tournament for him. Nurans will collect Evil Patrick. 150 points now checked off for Buriram. They are 17 behind SGD. Big consequences when it comes to the PGC ramifications, Jordan, because quite simply for Buriram and SGD, neither of those two played in PCS 6, so if you're talking about PGC points, well, basically, whoever finishes above each other should be going to PGC, so might be sweating there if you are an SGD fan with the way that Buriram is starting tonight, and I think they should have this one wrapped up, barring a miracle. Day Trade will need a big knock on to say someone like Nordra who's on the roof, that then takes a bit of time, where someone else has to go and get the revive they can then push into the compound. Maybe also something from PMA, but I just don't see a way that PMA get to this compound safely without losing players, without it being scrappy. To have a couple of vehicles, not quite in good condition though, but yeah, you'd be very surprised if Buriram cannot find a way to get the chicken dinner from this position, all things considered. There's phase 8. It actually favors PMA somewhat slightly, especially compared to Day Trade, but let's be real, this is Buriram's game to lose.
I think this is actually worst case scenario for Day Trade because I'm pretty sure it just completely removes all of their cover. Like that defilade that they were playing is now no longer in the next zone. So they're going to have to move. And their choices are to go straight into Buriram, who are sitting in a compound, or go over the ridge here and take the fight to PMA, which of course is still going to be fraught with danger, even though it's a 4-on-3. And you're going to see obviously what the option is going to be, but it sort of seems like a rock on a hard place kind of decision. Out of the frying pan into the fire, maybe. Day Trade have set up the wall of smokes to keep them safe from Buriram, and they're just going to have to try and take this to PMA. PMA want not a bar of it. They're keeping their heads down as much as possible, praying that Buriram's going to help them out and force Day Trade to stop this cross in some way, shape, or form. Nades look great. Ooh. They haven't quite got over the Darcias, but inevitably they do land. Poochills, Flash, Belmoth. Oh, it's an artillery barrage. That is death from above. PMA had no idea what just hit them.
They're going to just run and die to blue. They wanted to get the kills, get second place, deny points from Buriram. Wow. They're just going to send it straight to the blue. That is an impeccable play from Day Trade. They understand the whole tournament as a whole and what they need to do. There was no way that they were going to push onto the compound of Buriram. They did not even attempt it, not handing over the points. They took the points. They took out PMA, and then they just absolutely headlined straight for the blue. Buriram, your winners from this game, Jordan, in well, circumstances that are always quite strange, but nevertheless, they are the winner chicken dinner for this match.
It's a bit of a galaxy brain move, to be honest, but yeah, it might be quite valuable later on down the track. Those 4 points that Buriram could have picked up, who knows? That might make a difference. We'll have to see at the end of tomorrow. I tell you what, Buriram will be pretty pissed about it, to be honest, because they really need every point that they can get at the moment. They're kind of like on that precipice. They're on that teetering point where if they have a big day today, you know, they actually could still potentially go through to PGC. But if they're missing out on points like that, then it makes the job even more difficult. Not that it wasn't difficult to begin with. Like, they would have needed to have 2 really, really solid days, like incredible days. But those are the kinds of kills, those are the kinds of points that you need to have those kinds of days. So, unfortunately for Buriram, yeah, they get the win. It's maybe with a bit of a sour note, but you can only do what you can, right? When life gives you lemons, you make lemonade. And so they do get themselves a win. They'll be very happy with that. And it's a good start to the night for them. But similarly, really good start to the night for Day Trade as they start to close that gap on Cerberus and maybe think about a first place here in PCS 7.
Yeah, and sort of breaking down, I guess, that final play, right? It's very easy sometimes to look at that bombardment that we had and the fireworks, basically, and almost sort of forget they used all their smokes. They were using all their smokes to have that cover on the compound that Buriram was sitting at. So if you're basically using all of your utility, you've used all your smokes, and you've used all your nades, you got nothing to get to that compound. There is no way that they were going to be able to take on Buriram. Absolutely, really, really well played from Day Trade. Understanding, it's almost like they could have done 2 things. They could have saved all of the utility and pushed onto the compound, gone for the win, or secured second place and get the 3 kills onto PMA. They chose that option. They then knew that they had to run for the blue. And for Buriram, they just couldn't really do anything. They have to sit there. You're not going to give up the compound. You're not going to be pushing in towards the smokes of day trade. That's just suicide, and it's giving up best position. So that's just never going to happen. And yeah, in the end, it's what, 12 points for Buriram behind the team above them in SGD. That's 4 points they've now missed out on. So that's the difference, right? So from 12, maybe it should have been 8 points or so in terms of the gap. It's still quite marginal, but in the end, when we've seen some very close finishes when it comes to this region, Jordan, 4 points can mean a lot when it's all said and done. If Buriram miss out on PGC by 3-4 points, there they are.
Then we'll know where those points went missing. Yeah, I mean, when you sort of consider how tight the top of the lobby even is at the moment, right? You can already draw conclusions there. Daytrade and Theraton 5, they're only a couple of points difference between those two teams, and so yeah, again, 4 points. It is something that can really make a big difference. We've seen it in the past, especially in APAC. Tends to be quite tight toward the top end for 2 or 3 teams. Daytrade, though, with that second place, have put themselves up into second place overall in the standings too. So not a bad shout from them. Here's how things do shape up. Could have been a 19-point game for Buriram, which is really, really good. 15 still, quite solid, but 11, 11, 11. Daytrade, Archangel Predator, Team Bliss. It's kind of nice to see Archangel Predator and Team Bliss having some successes as well. Those are two teams that are still trying to hang on to positions or trying to gain positions in PGC, at least in the case of Archangel Predator. Didn't really do enough in PCS 6 to sort of excite, but I don't know. If they would have finished strong here today and tomorrow, maybe there was a world where we do see them back-to-back representatives at PGC.
Well, the Expendables also had 8 points. So, of the 3 teams that we've kind of continued to keep an eye on of our sort of PCS 6 coming into PCS 7 teams, Expendables had 8 that game, and then, 11-11 for Bliss and Archangel Predator, now into the total leaderboard. Archangel Predator still just holding slightly above the Expendables there. And again, we sort of touched it before. Expendables, they basically need top 8. Archangel need about top 6, and Bliss need top 10. So that's kind of the hallmarks there. But Cerberus at the moment on top. 202 points, Jordan, obviously. So looking very, very good. 26 points still the gap to Daytrade, 28 to Theraton 5. But we know that kind of point margin can be erased very, very quickly. It's not that hard to see any really of the teams in the top 4, top 5 being able to go and get a 20-point kind of game. So Cerberus will probably be kicking themselves a little bit for that game. Going out in 8th, losing out to PMA on the Prison Rocks. They probably wish they would have been able to have that one again. And here is PMA, who ended up finishing 3rd in that game. Jordan, a couple of kills as well to go with it. A struggle so far for them in week 2. After a pretty okay week 1, they had 70 points. They were around the top 10. I mean, they were in the top 10. They even won one of the games as well to close out the week. But slow start yesterday, better today.
Yeah, look, I don't think that we had huge expectations for PMA, so we're sort of starting to see them trend back towards maybe where we thought they would be. I think I'd probably put them in the same kind of ballpark as Origami Orangutans. Like, they had a good week 1. They sort of excited us a little bit, but by and large, the longer the tournament goes, the more consistent teams are going to start to really show a bit more success, and I think that's kind of where we're getting at the moment. Like, even Team Bliss, right? They're starting to work their way up. We know they're a quality squad, and they're starting to sort of prove that a little bit more this week than what they were able to do last week. They've already got half as many points as they did get in the total of last week. So trending positively, Origami Orangutans, I think they will struggle to perform as well as they did last week. They actually had a couple of really, really nice games. Like, they had that 19 kill second place or something like that, which realistically should have been a win. And then they followed it up with a win actually later on in that evening. And for a team that doesn't really have a lot of experience on this level of competition, being the second seed through from Oceania, I think, what we've seen from them already has been really impressive. So I'm happy with what I've got from them. I just think it's going to be hard to sort of replicate that again.
Lots of good signs from our first game tonight. Lots of teams able to show some really, really good signs to suggest that they are still a chance for PGC and the likes, of course, as we head into the next game. It's Erangel once again, fresh off of our last win from Buriram United. It was only the 5-kill win. The compound, a big factor for it. They need a little bit more. They need to get into the top 4, and they're not too far away from it. We get a Northern Plain path just above Gatka, basically almost the scenic route over Everest. So very far north. The Millie Circle would be quite intriguing if it does eventuate, but it's all spicing up. 4 more games, of course, including this for today, and then we've got all of tomorrow as well. Still a lot of games, but they go by pretty quick.
Yeah, I did get to see a couple of melee circles last week, but I feel like we've had our fill of those for this season. Hasn't felt like there's been too much north or too much south or anything like that, so to speak. So I think most teams would be more than happy to just get something a little bit more standard. And what I think is actually interesting about this week so far, and maybe what a big difference maker is going to be, is Day Trade is performing much better on Erangel this week than what they were able to do last week. It was sort of something that we really highlighted last week, that they struggled quite substantially on Erangel. They only got 40% of their points on that map, and it did sort of get picked up a little bit toward the back end of last week as well. So it's sort of been improving as we've gone. But yeah, I mean, the fact that Miramar hasn't needed to sort of carry them as much in the score department this week has sort of given rise to their improvement. They're up into second place, and they're starting to look like, at least so far this week, out of the 6 games that we've seen, definitely the best team across those 6 games so far. And again, it starts to feel like maybe a matter of time for Cerberus, but when we've been in this position previously this season, it's kind of been a little bit of a faltering step for the teams like Day Trade, Teraton 5, and SGD.
2 OCE teams in a sort of Mad
Surely
Max
you're not.
situation.
What are they doing?
This is a little bit bizarre, but the orangutans all in the Wandassia, chasing down Insight.
Do they know
Monty
they haven't
as
got
well.
a weapon?
Well,
They must know.
oh, they've completely
no!
flipped it as well. All the chance here for the orangutans. There's no way Bliss are getting out of this one alive, at least for Monty and Insight.
That is savage.
You may as well get out and punch them to death and just add a little bit more insult to injury.
Oh my god.
Kang even bringing out the P1 911. That is, that is not fun for Team Bliss when they are fighting tooth and nail to get to PGC. They're brethrens, they're brothers in arms. Well, they cut them down at the start of this game, and that now means it's a long game here for the 2 remaining members of Team Bliss. They got a long journey ahead of them.
That honestly felt like some kind of Zaki gang warfare or something like that, and it was like a hit. They put a hit out on Insight and Monty, and there was just no getting away.
Yep.
I feel like I've seen a crime. I might have to report that. Oh dear.
Well, moving on to our top 5 kills from the last match. It was, kind of slim pickings, Jordan. No real massive standout when it came to the kills department. In fact, Nordra with 2 kills, having the most damage, probably highlights that for us. But it's not often we see 5 different teams on this kind of graphic. Usually it's 2 from, say, the winning team, for example. But Mad Dog with 4 kills does stand out on top there from AAP. From that last game. But yeah, I guess spreading the love a bit.
Yeah. It is a little bit unfortunate sometimes for Team Bliss when the circle is, when the plane path is a bit further north. They do have to go towards Zaki, and I've sort of felt like when that's occurred, they have had a bit more of a difficult time getting points, and here's just another instance of it. So they'll be hoping for another southern plane path so they can go down to the military island for the final game of Erangel, which will be after this. Either way, it's good news for Origami Orangutans, who get the extra 2 points, and they want to try and do as best as they can. There's definitely still a world where they could make their way into the top 8 again. Need to have a big night tonight to do so. Expendables, they're in an interesting spot too, because they're still jostling for a PGC spot.
They've been very good, actually, this week. When you look at just week 2 for the Expendables, they're in the top 5. As we'll put that one maybe on ice here, because SGD, for the 2nd game in a row, are going to get into an early fight, 1 for 1. Hey, that's fair. But unfortunately for Haisaki, Jordan, he's not getting revived. Whereas, obviously, for Sophia, he has teammates in tow, very close now. In fact, this could even go from bad to worse for Cerberus. Jervis has the angle, and he's got the spray onto Duckmai. So 2 very early deaths onto our lobby leaders in Cerberus could just shake things up a bit.
Oh, Neil T, he's trying to steal that kill on Haisaki, but Shen's going to finish it off. Jervis, he'll do the honors onto Duckmai. No questions about that one. Not a bad shout from SGD. They really struggled in that first game. They got knocked out in 16th place, and so they do need a way to bounce back, and what a way to bounce back as well. Taking down 2 of the Cerberus members is a big one. Sophia drops before the smokes come through, so it's just not quite as sweet as what it could have been. PMA, they're looking for more. Leo can't get out alive. Oh, they've bitten off more than they could chew. PMA They are a thorn in the side of the teams at the top of the scoreboard at the moment. They took down Cerberus last round, and they're looking to take down SGD now. Leo should be resable for Shen. But what was looking so good for SGD now starts to falter a little bit.
Oh, they're not out of the woods either. Himas still keeping eyes on this and basically just stuck in the woods by himself. Has Tycon just south of him. But yeah, this is bizarre. I do wonder if Cerberus looking to try and get a little bit of revenge here from Himas, but he's too far away. And now he's got the Expendables pushing on top of him. This could go from bad to worse for Cerberus. If they lose Himas as well, it'll only be Tycon spray from KMF. Long distance, tough shots to hit from there. And yet he actually did land a few tags, but Diane landing once back will force KMF back to heal. But a very intriguing start to this game. Maybe more to come. No. Drive-by without the shooting. Friendly one there as Jowman just probably gives them a little toot of the horn and says, see you later. You can have that position.
Tycon's still alive. I think he's been one of the biggest finds of PCS 7. Bit of an unknown factor coming into week 1. He was a $10,000 fantasy pick, 1% pick rate. And going into week 2, I think he was closer to 25% pick rate. And he seems to have really flourished inside this Cerberus roster. If I'm being honest, I think he's actually been maybe the most impressive individual on that roster this season. He's certainly had a really, really good couple of impactful moments. So he's a up-and-coming talent that is going to do Cerberus well if and most likely when they do go through to PGC, whether it be through that PGC slot in first place or through just the PGC points. They should have more than enough. They've done a very, very good job this season. And I'm kind of really enjoying this season. I think I'm enjoying this season a lot more than last season because at this stage, it was day trade at like 280 points. And we were saying, yeah, well, no one's going to catch them. But now it sort of feels like there's a very realistic possibility that that top 5 could change quite dramatically.
Yep. I would say, yeah, at about this point last season, it was pretty much done. Cerberus, though, the one thing I will say, and it's entirely to their credit, every time it seems like they're being challenged, every time it seems like that gap is shrinking, they always just have it in them to go and have a game, a big game, and just sort of re-establish that lead. It's probably happened 2 or 3 times this tournament. And obviously for the sort of neutrals watching on, you want a close competition for as long as possible, but basically from the first match, it's just been Cerberus in that top spot.
Oh.
Reseda Jr. spotted Mirage. Of course, it's already been a nightmare start this game for Team Bliss. A little bit of a jig and a 12 from Mirage, and it does actually help out. Reseda Jr. unable to land those shots. Whoop. And here comes AAP onto a silent sitting E-Arena. AAP may feel like this is actually for the taking, but it's not. It's occupied. And Mad Dog will get the unfortunate news. CJ opened the door. He got shot. He ran away. But his teammate falls. And E-Arena, well, the deadly trap has worked. And oh my days, CJ can't even land that tag. KM99, good turnaround. Zizzy has been taken down by John Bob. And here comes one more. The theatrics of men. Well, they go out in style. Does Archangel Predator.
What on earth is going on in APAC right now? I don't even know. Nan thinks he's in Harry Potter. He's got that flying car. Doesn't work like that anymore. That was back in, like, release. All right? We can't go flying in the car anymore. Anyway. Jeez.
Well, not the game for AAP to respond after a pretty decent match in the last game. 4th place, 7 kills, and then out in last. So unable to back it up, Jordan, and probably why they're, again, sort of middle of the table. That's consistency not quite being a tune they've been able to sing this stage.
Yeah. Okay. Let's calm ourselves down a little bit. Where's the next circle shift going to go? Bringing things back to a bit of normality. Origami orangutans, they're on the move, aren't they? Got a long way to go.
Well, I hope you liked the last game, Jordan, because let's just do it again.
Nah, this one, I reckon this one's like south of Yasnaya. Not quite going to be in the exact same spot, is it? Surely not. Surely you can't have 2 in a row.
Close. Very, very close. You can have the same circle, but it's never going to be the same game, let's be honest. Of course.
No.
The start of this game really highlighting that. Genius Esports quiet in the last one. On the move again early here. They've been rotating pretty much non-stop. they'll be going towards Mansion side, it seems. I do wonder what the play is going to be for the likes of Cerberus, the likes of SGD. After a bit of fighting on the edge of the circle, both wounded. Where do we even look to head to? Spray from Smell, not bad. Again, onto the duo of Team Blitz, who have just been, I guess, headlines in this game. Yeah, they have not been able to have anything go their way. Nice tag from Bryn to land that moving vehicle at a distance. Smell couldn't land any himself. Team Blitz might be able to get to a decent spot here.
Yeah, they're the main characters in this game, aren't they? Y8, nice little spray on a Mr. Clay, goes round the corner, but KMF is there, and PMA, they continue to impress this game. They have breached their way into, yes, a couple of members, but it's worked out really nicely for them. Icarus do lose 2, and PMA gain a position inside of the zone. Duck Juice from the Expendables creeping his way towards SGD. Shen out in the open. And he's got those shots on the 777, but he doesn't know Duck Juice is so close by. It was a classic bait and switch.
Disaster for SGD. Losing Shen for basically nothing, and now down to 2 players. And they went out last in the last game, Jordan, with just the 1 kill. It's almost being somewhat replicated here. It wouldn't be last, but only the 2 kills and not looking likely to get placement points means that Buriram having all the chance to close that gap and overtake them. Glory's taken down for Genius Esports. But will get revived just behind Yuta here. And obviously the remaining duo for Cerberus trying to make their way into the zone. Himas taken down. When it's not your game, it's not your game. Fast-moving buggy, doesn't matter. He gets shot out. Tycon, the solo, and the last remaining player standing for Cerberus.
Yeah, I think most teams will be happy to see Cerberus struggling 2 games in a row. Patampong has been knocked, but it doesn't look like there's really a finish angle there. So it'll just be the res for actually Patampong and Ranger X. Zeraton 5 more than happy to continue holding themselves up in Yasnaya, but it has given a bit of an opportunity for Origami Orangutans to get on the move, and they look like they have found a couple of apartments they want to move into as well. It's not going to be a long-term thing. This is like, you know, you just come in for a visit. Maybe it's an Airbnb.
The rent's expensive, mate. Like
the rent is expensive. You can't afford to be staying here.
No.
You're going to get choked out by some landlord or perhaps... what even is the blue? Have they ever explained that? I've never really paid attention, but is it like gas or is it like just blue stuff that kills you?
Yeah, moving on. It's just the blue, mate. It's just the blue.
Yeah. I just remember back in the day, we used to always, you know, when the game first came out, everyone was like, oh, gas mask. Wear the gas mask. It makes the blue do less damage.
I guess it's like an electric field or something. I've always thought that. But you know what's interesting? After all these years, I never even thought to really care. I just always thought it was like some kind of field, like electric field. Either way, 777 pushing up to the remnants of SGD. A couple of teams in this game that have just not really been able to have anything go their way. Unfortunately for Jervis, his head not really visible there in that UAZ. But Leo is actually still in that building. He might be able to actually get a kill there onto 777 if 777 runs into his sight line. Kang, let's tag onto Zizzy there for E-Arena. And this is also not really going to be the main camping point because they've not got themselves inside of the circle. Flashback of Nan's flying escapade. I'm assuming. Oh, we're going to get like a...
There we go. It's Nanpov, is it? I really don't know what he was hoping for there. I guess the argument was like, I'm going to cause the distraction. Evil Patrick, you win the duel. But it didn't go like that. It really did not go anything like that at all.
And there goes Tycon, by the way. So second last place for Cerberus. No kills, no points from this one.
That's big news for Day Trade and Teraton 5.
It's
SGD
massive.
Even.
Yeah, it's, well, even down to even Buriram. Just gives you hope. And for those that think that, you know, this tournament is over and that Cerberus have got this one locked up, think again. And remember, there's one team in particular, Jordan, out of every team that desperately wants the Cerberus victory. That's Unicorn Phoenix watching at home. Because if Cerberus win the tournament, Unicorn Phoenix will be labeled as the best Vietnamese team in terms of points and go to PGC. So
yes, anything but that, and it's Cerberus that takes that free, well, quote-unquote free spot.
Jarman taken down, shot in the back by Zizzy. Ninja 2K has one more nade. Cowman finished off. And Skeet just able to avoid those nades. The Expendables, though, they're having a tremendous week too. And you can see the confidence just exuding around them. 777 down onto Skeet. They'll finish him off as well. They are really making a run for that top 8.
They are very keen on it, aren't they? The Expendables, they're one of those explosive teams that when things are going right, they can go really right for the Expendables. As of yet, not a massive game from them tonight, but they have crossed that triple figure mark. And that does put them within striking distance even of 7th place. Here's another couple of shots from 777. No, able to connect this time. Next circle shift will tell us a fair bit. We have gone a little bit further out to the west than the previous zone. Previous game. This should just go straight in over Mansion, you'd think. Should be really great news from the future. And even Day Trader starting to read that too. They're on the move before that zone even shifts. Going to be the first mover's advantage. They get themselves locked in into the little building right above Mansion. Not a bad place to be for a zone like this.
And they can take the whole thing from the future, not exactly occupying Mansion in the best way possible, to be honest.
Bliss is happy too, by the way.
Yeah, I think Bliss are probably okay with this position as well. One thing about Mansion, as good as it is, Jordan, you don't really want to be stranded up there if it does shift away. One of those kind of positions where it can backfire, despite being one of the better positions, say, early on. You know, your phases 4 and 5s by maybe 6, 7. It could actually end up being a detriment. For SGD, it looks as if they're just going to rotate straight through the center of the circle where Genius Esports currently located close by to them. But here's that exchange now. Teraton 5 and Arena. Drop shot's not going to work there at all for you, Larix. And a KM99 falls. So does Sapnix. Wow. This is all too easy for Teraton 5. I mean, Zizzy couldn't even make it into the building. Talk about a clean sweep from T5 to get all 4 of Arena.
Well, that's just the fundamentals for Teraton 5, isn't it? And that just goes to show why they're a team that deserves to be up in the top 2 at the moment. They are just a little bit better at everything than most of the teams on the field at the moment. And they continue to prove it. PMA are having a good time, and oh, there's a breach coming in their direction. Young B, he just sends it in behind the shed. Takes that fight. Teddy, though, will win it. And unfortunately now for NGE, they're starting to run out of options. Neil T's trying to cross too, but you don't want to be pulling up here. You also don't want to be slowing down in that buggy. It's very open. Shots going through. He'll be taken out by Teddy. Good headshot comes across. PMA standing and delivering at the moment. Ninja has pulled up on the backside of the building, and they don't appear to have heard him, Xenox.
Oh my god, they're almost too aggressive at this point. I mean, they are just going gung-ho onto this compound. Like you said, I don't think that they had the awareness that they honestly needed to. They allowed him to push up, allowed the rest of the Expendables as well, but it's Rosita Jr. that's helping out PMA with a long-range knockdown onto 777. They're not safe on the outside. They have to push in. The smoke aiding them momentarily. Shot from Ninja's perfect. Nice. Always difficult to shoot through the barred windows. Nade from KMF. Well, it was once their building. Now it turns to the side of the Expendables, but they're losing too many players too rapidly. Duck Juice doesn't win that. Well played to PMA to defend their compound. 7 kills. They get rid of the Expendables. But obviously there's, well, some losses along the way. Only Teddy and KMF still alive.
Every team that got involved in that fight has come off worse for it. It was another one of those that we saw in game 1. It was kind of the bowl fight, but this time it's just the compound fight. All teams trying to send it into the same spot, and no one walks away really very happy. PMA have got 2 alive instead of 3 that they had prior. NGE are down to 1. The Expendables are completely gone. And NGE, it doesn't look like they're going to be lasting much longer if these shots coming through from Theraton 5 are going to connect onto Diane. I can see on the minimap. Patton Pong gets the better of him too. Circle's gone north, which is great news from the future Day Trade and Theraton 5. Origami Orangutans and MS Chomburi have a pretty interesting job ahead of them. Trying to go into the building or maybe past the building that Theraton 5 is occupying is not particularly easy because they're situated on the high ground. They have really good vision all the way around them. And I think Theraton 5 are feeling pretty comfortable, pretty confident about this game.
Yep. They should be, especially when you take into account with Cerberus going out and getting no points from this game. You've picked up 6 kills. That gap now down to 22 points and could be further shrunk down. And it's not just T5, but you've got Day Trade, SGT, Buram, MSC, and Genius all still alive. Obviously, the further you go down MSC, Genius less effect. But the main thing is, 2nd to 5th, all still alive, getting points and catching up to Cerberus and keeping that pressure on. The other part of the equation too is the entire bottom 4 is still alive as well. So it's mainly just those teams in the middle of the standings that have gone out thus far in this match.
Buriram's going to be on the move. Circle has really hurt them, that shift. To be fair, it was very favorable for them in game 1, and now they've got a much harder job to do. Try to work their way north through the field into a little bit of a defilade, but once again, it's PMA that continues to be a problem for so many teams at the moment. They're up to 8 kills. They are just a duo, but man, they're getting some real work done. Kang, Akita, going to try to push their way onto MSC. It's not going well for Kang, and Akita now is going to start to take shots from Teraton 5.
I gotta say though, Job Jab has probably been one of the players that has really caught my eye this PCS as a sort of entry player for MS Chonburi. He's always the first one pushing and always the last one alive. And it says a lot about that guy as a player. And it's happened again as well. He's got their only kills. He's the last one alive. He's constantly trying to make things happen, but no one else able to sort of go with him at the moment. Decent spray onto Akita, and he connected it. Akita does drop in the end. Nade from Job Jab goes out to try and finish it off. I think Akita's going to fall one way or another. But again, it's kind of Job Jab or nothing for MS Chonburi. There goes PMA. Buriram, welcome to the party. They've been a little bit quiet. They get some kills. 3 now for them in this game. It's a wounded lobby, though. 9 teams, 26 alive here, going towards the end of Phase 5. Clories has he got a massive nade for Edie. I think he
already had one.
Oh, it's bouncing. It's bouncing pretty well. Gets a bit of damage. Dead. He'll go down to the blue, and Kanaxi will probably go down shortly thereafter.
Yeah, I was going to say that cross from Buriram, it cost them a player, but it's cost them a lot more than that now. It was always going to be a tough one, to be fair. But they've made their way actually into the placement points at least. Jervis went down 1 placement prior to that, and that leaves Buriram alive inside the top 8, so they can take some solace in that. This was never going to be an amazing game for them. It's just been a little bit too difficult to work around the zone shifts, but they're getting as much as they can. GE, Team Bliss.
Oh, it's
still alive for the moment, but maybe not for Team Bliss.
Yeah, it's a bad spot, unfortunately. Remember, they only had 2 players this game after the shenanigans at the start with the orangutans. And honestly, all things considered, when you take into the the aspect of the start, to get at least something from this game, to get at least a point, you'll take it. Orangutans really did them dirty at the beginning of the game, and yeah, not much more you could really expect. So 7 teams left now. Theraton 5 up to 7 kills, and in some ways they've kind of got Buriram right in their scope here. Cheeksing it, and Kanaxi will have to make a massive death run. He's just going in reverse the whole way. And you know why? Because of the back plate. That's obviously giving him extra cover.
Yeah. I mean, he doesn't really have too many options, does he, though? Like, where are you going to end up? He's trying to, I think, position the buggy as best as possible to give him as much cover as he can, but
yeah,
it's not really a sure thing. Still, he's alive for the moment. Teraton 5 do have other things to worry about as well, not just Buriram. But once they clear out Origami Orangutans, if they clear out Origami Orangutans, they are going to be in the god spot. They're going to have vision on like pretty much everyone inside this zone. And they're still going to have that high ground. If and when they do have to push off of it, it might start to get a bit interesting, depending on if Day Trade or From the Future keeps 4 alive. But this is looking so good for Teraton 5 at the moment. Day Trade also need to be really clean, working their way through Mansion. It's not a bad start, but Belmoth gets traded back down.
One for one's not too bad. Nade from Trick, underarm. Don't think he got it out. He's just going to blow up the doorway. That was a big down from Nurens. As you said, it ended up being 1 for 1. But I think Day Trade have lost Belmoth permanently. Man still just down. Delta Mix actually close by. Could maybe go for some kind of revive. Oh, Utah's just picked out Puchills as well. Now it's falling apart now for Day Trade. Tede just drops out of the window to Utah as well. So Genius Esports cleaning house. They've got 8 kills. Just quietly, it's been a massive game for them. There might be more to come as well. They can honestly just push straight onto this and clear up whatever's remaining. There's not much remaining there. Puchills just crawls out to Utah as well. More kills for Genius Esports and more of an opportunity to cement themselves a top 7 position.
X-Cross has been knocked by Rain of Origami Orangutan, so that could also be something to keep in mind. Oh, he's super isolated. He does not get rezzed. Smokes are going down on top of him. I mean, I guess there is a world where he gets rezzed, but Teraton 5 would really have to value that quite a lot to then take the fight. And inevitably, the Molly's going to get it done. So back to 3-on-3 on that side of the map. Problem is, for Origami Orangutans, they're starting to lose control of any safe positioning. And the cross shots are starting to come through from Day Trade and Mansion. And they've lost Rip as a result. Genius are going to try and pull up underneath Sky Garden on that little cliff face, which is going to keep them safe until Theraton 5 or Origami Orangutan have to come off the top. But even then, this is now starting to look like a pretty weird kind of a fight.
Yeah, and a pretty weird kind of finish is I think, brewing here. Tree positions are going to be massive towards the end. Who's going to make mistakes first? You can kind of see the overview of the circle. That crate actually could end up having some kind of factor at the end of this game. Does provide really decent cover closer towards the center point of the circle. You can utilize that. A couple of smokes. You've got some trees. Suddenly there is cover that can be made available. Not a bad send-in from Clories too. That's inside of the Phase 7 circle. May not be there for Phase 8, but buys him some time and buys his team some time. At the moment,
this is insane. This circle is super difficult to play. Like, Job Jab is keeping his head down, and he's going to be pretty happy with how things are shifting, but everyone's going to have to push in, and there just doesn't feel like there's a whole lot of cover. That's why everyone's so worried. Rossiter Jr., though, he's going to take it into his own hands, push his way forward into that smoke, gets a bit of chip damage onto Origami Orangutans. Ranger X is there to greet them as they work their way out of the smoke, ducks back in to try to heal, keep himself safe. What an absolute mess this is going to be coming off of Sky Garden.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a pretty much dead position, though, isn't it, now for them? Day Trade are in a better luxury position that they just are not having to fight with another team, so therefore they're able to just keep the pressure onto T5. Whereas obviously for T5, they're trying to deal with the players that are close by. They're trying to avoid the shots from Day Trade. They're just trying to do so much more than any other team, despite basically everyone in the same kind of position when it comes to pushing into this open circle. Pat and Pong, I don't think it is going to be much longer for this world, but he does take out Akita before he falls. So that's 9 kills now for T5 and firmly in second place. But for how much longer? Because Day Trade only 2 points behind them.
He doesn't have, unfortunately, a lot of room to work with, and the smokes aren't going to be enough to stop bullets. And so something else is going to finish him off, and Patton Pong drops. That means Theraton 5 out in 5th. Job Jab has finally been found. He's done really well, though, to nab a couple of extra placements by taking 4th. And I think you're right. Maybe it is a GE game right now, and kept 4 alive.
Ooh, Nade just falls short of Neurons, but yeah, 13 kills. There goes Trick, falls to Flash. Now it's a 4 versus 2. Massive game for Day Trade when it comes to the fact that it's going to be, well, I reckon probably second place, 7 kills, barring a big turnaround headshot. No, something else falls to Flash. And momentarily, that now makes it a 2 versus 3, and that is winnable. And he got Flash alive. A chance, dodges that nade. Norrens has to win his fight as well. Basically in a 2-on-1, and Clories gets the down that they needed to confirm this for GE. Norrens does get the down onto Utah. Makes it a 1 versus 2. Norrens, though, surely low on health. He is getting peppered. I don't see a way forward. He would have to be, honestly, a god to win from here. He should get Simon T, and he does. 10 HP
he can heal.
In a 1 versus 1 now with Clories.
If he ducks his head down, sits behind this tree, he can heal back up to full. He can finish off Utah. That info's getting tossed over to Clory. Speaking of which, well, the Molly gets tossed, but that's not going to go far enough. And, oh dear, this could be a huge clutch for Norrens. Day Trade. They don't stand to take first off of this just yet, but it's going to get them one step closer. Ballsy play from Norrens. He's taken himself away from the cover, trying to find the angle, the headshot through. Clory's now down to 3, needs to heal as well. That's going to give Norrens time to cross.
Gets the first aid kit off, back up to 75. How Norrens crosses! Norrens hits the shot! From a 2 versus 4, it's the 2 for Day Trade that take top position. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. Massive victory, not just for this game, but for their chances of back-to-back PCS victories, Jordan. They are firmly in contention to take top spot for PCS 7.
Yeah, that is massive from Norrens. I think it was a 1-on-3, because I'm pretty sure he got the knock onto the first guy to put it into the 2-on-1. And of course, even a 2-on-1 in a scenario like that is not easy.
Well, it was so many different factors. It started as a 2 versus 4.
Yep.
And then it was basically a 1v3 for about all of 1 second, because as it was the 1, he got the third knock anyway, so then it became a 1v2. So 2v4 into a 1v2. Either way, big result, big win for Day Trade. And being completely honest here, Jordan, just more of an importance in terms of a win for them than it would have been for GE. GE will be obviously feeling probably distraught that they weren't able to close that game out, get that win that they probably feel they maybe deserve, because they were having an absolute banging game. They had the 13 kills going into that final exchange. They had the best position, they had the numbers, everything was going their way. But just full credit to Daytrade, a team that's clearly on another level. And obviously, as I said, I think it just means a little bit more for Daytrade in that fight for that top spot. This is a team that's already going to PGC, but they want to make a statement going into PGC. Can they get back-to-back PCS events under their belt? And honestly, that kind of win puts them in firm contention to do so.
And they are now only 5 points behind Cerberus on the overall leaderboard, which is as close as it has been pretty much at
Since
all
game
this
one.
season.
Yeah, not even.
Since game one, Cerberus were sort of running away with things on day one. I don't think the gap has been any closer than 20 at any point, but now it's just 5. And Daytrade have been on an absolute tear this week so far. In week 2, which, mind you, is only 7 games played, they've picked up 93 points, which is an absolute monster number, considering they only got 104 in week 1. I say only, like 104 in week 1's not too bad, but they're about to beat that pretty much next game, and we've still got a day and a half to go in week 2. So this could be Daytrade or PCS 6 kind of performances in week 2 of PCS 7. And if they do that, they're going to walk away with the win.
And a quiet night tonight as well for Cerberus is further compounding the shrinkage of that gap, that lead. But as I said before, Jordan, we've seen this a couple of times, 2 or 3 times now. This could end up being 3 or 4 times. Every time Cerberus have been challenged, every time that gap has shrunk, they respond. They hit back either with a win or a very, very big performance. So my eyes are now firmly on Cerberus going into the next game, which will be our final game of Erangel. Can they do it again? Can it be like the 3rd time the charm, where again the gap shrinks and then again Cerberus respond, because they've done it each time. Otherwise, you know, it's been since game 1. Game 1, Cerberus has been leading since then. They've not given up that spot. There's every chance in the world it could honestly slip away from them. The other team that has obviously been sort of, I don't want to say forgotten, but Deraton 5, 186 points. They're now, you know, only 16 points behind that top spot as well. So that's obviously doable in one game. SGD have kind of actually fallen away a little bit too. So still, what a massive game. 21 points. Genius Esports, 19 points. So they can take away a lot from that game too, and further puts them in a good position for top 7, top 6 kind of placing. And yeah, as I said, Deraton 5, they continue to perform very, very well here in week 2. In fact, it's literally Daytrade and T5 for week 2, Jordan, and then Daylight.
Yeah, SGD are going to be looking at this couple of games so far and feeling a little bit awkward about it. Huge, huge stuff from Nurans, though. I guess we have to reiterate that he was that player that got it over the line for Daytrade. 1,100 damage in that game, 8 kills. You've barely seen a better player of the match graphic than that one, and putting it into the context, the clutch at the end of it, that's probably the biggest individual game of any player so far in PCS 7. SGD, though, they are quite dramatically slipping their way down the standings. It's gone from them being, pretty easily inside the top 3 to now, you know, quite far away from actually the top 3 in terms of points. 17 behind Teraton 5, and actually only 10 ahead of Buriram now starts to put their top 4, top 3 placement in jeopardy. And of course, we were talking about that quite at length. The 5-point differential between Daytrade and Cerberus starts to make things really, really exciting going into today's last few games, and obviously tomorrow as well, if that kind of a deficit does remain or maybe even gets overtaken. Cerberus really under the pump at the moment. Got a lot of work to do. Yeah,
certainly. They're going to have to turn things around. They've been able to do it, obviously, before in this tournament, and we'll see if they can do so again. Otherwise, it could honestly be dark days if they do somehow squander that top spot, considering the lead that they once had. Plenty of PUBG still to be played. We'll go to a short break. On the other side, though, we return to Erangel.
All clear on the roof. Heading back down.
Roger. Hurry up. We need to move.
Just make sure I don't take a bullet in the back.
Looking good. Keep it steady.
I hear footsteps. I got a bad feeling.
Enemy spotted. Move! Move!
You're going up next time.
There won't be a next time.
Yeah. I only got one question. So is that all you got?
Outside, inside, we don't stop. Global, worldwide, we don't stop. From the bottom to the top, we don't stop. From the burbs to the block, we don't stop. Outside, inside, we don't stop. Global, worldwide, we don't stop. From the bottom to the top, we don't stop. From the burbs to the block, we don't stop. Outside, inside, we don't stop. Global, worldwide, we don't stop. From the bottom to the top, we don't stop. From the burbs to the block, we don't stop. Outside, inside, we don't stop. Global, worldwide, we don't stop. From the burbs to the block, we don't stop.
Some updates to Destin, a new vehicle, and special new skins. All this and more as we dive into the Update 19.2 patch report. First up, Destin is getting some additional cover in several areas, as well as more cell towers, ascenders, and fuel pumps. You'll also now notice the passage of time and even shifting weather patterns in your Destin games. If your match is going long and you're starting to feel hangry, look out for the newest Battlegrounds vehicle, the food truck. This sturdy vehicle holds a driver and passenger, while up to 2 others serve up hot food and even hotter lead in the back. There's also new heavy stock in the game to try out on your favorite stock-slotted weapon. You may remember us talking about an animation refresh some time back. This update, you'll start to see the fruits of those efforts with new animations for all weapon operations and player motions. Check them out and let us know what you think. For those looking to really pimp their ride, we've added new special vehicle skins to the game. Our first set will turn your run-of-the-mill Coupe RB into a sleek and sexy McLaren GT. Customized paint, rims, and even your brakes. These customizations can be crafted in the workshop or by collecting rewards from the new McLaren Crafter's Pass. But before you go betting your pink slip, while it may look like a McLaren, it still performs like a regular old coupe. There's quite a bit more to learn about these updates and more, so check out the patch notes for full details. Update 19.2 is here, so drop in, wax up that new McLaren, and serve up some chicken dinner, extra bullets. We'll see you on the battlegrounds.
3 wins from 7 matches to start week 2 for Daytrade. They are making the run home here in week 2 of PCS 7 APAC, and boy, are they putting the pressure on Cerberus now, Jordan. It's the closest margin we've had all tournament long, basically since halfway through game 1.
I will say, though, whenever we've gotten to this position where we've sort of said, look, actually, maybe Cerberus is going to drop out of that first place spot, they popped up with a good game. It happened right toward the end of last week as well. I think at the end of day 2, you remember that game where it really felt like Cerberus was going to get overtaken, but they got a 10-kill, second-place game, elevated that lead once again, and were able to continue to hang on. So the next couple of games feel like they're going to be a really big passage of play for those teams that are trying to make the chase. It's been a far better week so far for Daytrade and Theraton 5 than it has been for Cerberus, but all it's going to take, again, is for Cerberus to have one good game, and they're right back out in front. They've got to get, again, a little bit of leeway, and it's going to put that pressure back onto Daytrade and Theraton 5 because they're going to start to feel like they're running out of time. It has, slowly but surely, been a good creep from the teams that are trying to chase Cerberus, but as of yet, they haven't been able to topple them. I feel like once that does happen, though, the waterfall really sort of opens up.
I did go into the record books during the break, Jordan. It was
I'm sure you did.
PCS 3 and PCS 4. The last time we had a back-to-back winner, of course, that was the great Buriram United, really the golden era for that particular roster. And fun fact, PCS 3 Daytrade, the full roster was there, and they finished 3rd last, and they have completely stuck it out. I will say they had Veronica on the core and Belmoth as the sub. How times have changed for Daytrade. Big turnaround for them over the last year or two. We head into our next match, though. It's Erangel for the final time tonight, and then, of course, we have 2 matches of Miramar to follow. So it gets really close now at the top end of the overall standings. 5 points is the margin that Daytrade has in catching up with Cerberus, looking to be just the 2nd team in PCS APAC history to go back-to-back. Theraton 5 also well and truly within reach. And then for SGD and Buriram, Jordan need to get a wriggle on.
Yeah, and this is almost exactly the same playing path as what we had last game. I mean, it is a little bit different, but for all intents and purposes, in terms of where teams are going to be able to drop and how quickly they're going to be able to get there, it is much of the same. I'm just watching Team Bliss on the map stream, and they are not making the same mistake that they did earlier. They're not landing anywhere near Origami Orangutans, and they're all 4 of them a little bit further north up towards Zaki. So they're not going to be losing any players super early on in the piece. Like last game, Daytrade and courtesy of Flash have found themselves an early vehicle as well. So good stuff to start things off. Most teams are pretty happy with how this is playing out. No shenanigans. Not sure what's happened there to Duck Juice. Looks like he's managed to get a knock onto one of the GE members from what I can see. I think that's been a confirmed kill as well. Can't really tell because of the graphic that's up on the screen at the moment.
I think he's gone. Yeah.
But I think he's gone. Yeah, Duck Juice, I think, has gotten himself a kill there onto one of the GE players.
Well, our final game of Erangel for the night, and it has so graciously sent us over towards the Gaka Fields compared to Mansion Side, so at least there's something a little bit different. I will say, for this particular tournament, Jordan, we haven't really gone that far up north, have we? Not a whole lot of Severny, not a whole lot of shooting range, or even sort of north of Yasnaya Pond, for example, around Stelba. We've had a bit of Sosnovka Island, of course, last week, and yeah, a lot of Mansion Side and a lot of Gaka Fields. These were our kills from the last game, and Noran's put in an absolute masterclass, an individual performance for the ages. 8 kills, 1,100 damage, and boy, does it overshadow what were some pretty good performances really in that game. Glories, Patton even Yuta as well. Teddy, even though 3 kills, 638 damage. So that is a really, really stacked top 5 from the last game.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen a few player of the game graphics that have been like 2 or 3 kills and like 300 damage, and like, yeah, I mean, that's fine. That's pretty good, I guess. But all those players on the top 5 for that last game really having big games. Would have felt like on any other day they might have got a player of the game graphic for themselves, but not the case. Sometimes someone just goes one better. Simon T very nearly ran into a rock there. But yeah, it was something else that got taken down by the Expendables a little bit earlier on. We saw that while the map was up, and we saw a little bit of a graphic over the stream. But it was Duck Juice that got that kill onto GE to start things off in this game. Not exactly what GE wants at the moment, because I think they're probably realistically looking for a top 6
Here we go.
Doesn't seem like they're going to get themselves a top 5. Yeah, this is the kill. Nice shots actually from Duck Juice. If he's done it just with the Iron Sight Scar.
Ooh, clean.
Yeah, very clean indeed. Bit unlucky for something else, to be fair, but it is what it is. It happens.
Obviously, we did see that circle, by the way, Jordan. Phase 1, Gakka Fields, right on top of Day Trade. Fresh off that win and puts them in a good position. Back it up here again. AAP, SGD, also around the vicinity. And then actually towards Lighthouse at the moment is Cerberus. So, you know, a couple of teams there in my eyes, and may as well actually add E-Arena. AAP, SGD, E-Arena, Cerberus. These are kind of the teams that we've seen tonight in the first 2 games, constantly fighting early on, probably to their detriment. So I do wonder, do you somehow reel it in a little bit in this game? Final game of Arangel. Well, these guys aren't going to reel it in at all. Icarus loses Y8. It's only AT and J-End left. Tede out towards the open area side from the future, having this little exchange. And at the moment, coming off the better team. Only man has been knocked. And Delta Mix will confirm FP and Y8. Tede stuck at the tree, but at least he has the tree for cover. Don't know. Does AT go for this one? I mean, that's surely not going to make the distance,
huge
right? That is.
nade.
Oh, that's a big nade from Tricto onto J-End. And yeah, the nade from AT, while it actually did make the distance, it doesn't quite get the connection it really wanted to. Icarus, though, on the verge of maybe going out here in last place, with not a whole lot to show for it.
Oh, Tede's into the smoke now.
Oh!
And nades landed right on top of him. He's a sliver of HP. This Molly, I don't think is going to go far enough, but... Oh, this is a good shout by AT. Unfortunately, he's lost this entire team. And I don't suppose he's going to be lasting too much longer. Delta Mix looks like he wants to get this one wrapped up pretty quick. Smart from the future know what a big rotation they're going to have to make. So they do not want to be sticking around and, you know, wasting time.
Yeah, he's dead here. No, they are just swarming to him. And it's going to be Tede who does get the kill, the final kill of that exchange. All 4 kills go the way from the future. And that little bottom of the battle, Jordan, the bottom 2 going at it. And that does now firmly plant Icarus on that last spot of the standings. And, well, that happens every PCS, that the bottom team or the bottom 2 teams eventually fall away. And that gap starting to build up a little bit. Tycon, though, big kill onto Zizzy. And he confirms it straight away. SGD lose a player. And those teams that I mentioned before around that Gatka Fields area, Jordan, they're all fighting again early. And to the detriment, again, early to SGD. You lose Shen, you lose Jervis. It's only Sophia and Leo. What is happening to this team?
Yeah, it's been a horrible day for SGD, hasn't it? This week, we had such high expectations for them going in. Sophia under the pump. The grenades just keep getting tossed in and can't get that med off in time. Archangel Predator, they are loving it. They're getting a lot of points. A lot of really important points as well, because they're sort of teetering on the precipice of maybe even dropping out of the top 10 at the moment.
I mean, this
Leo.
is just awful, awful positioning from SGD a couple of games in a row. Shen keeps going down super early. I think that's 3 games in a row now. And then it's almost like domino effect, isn't it? One goes down, you try and salvage that, you throw a couple of smokes, and it all just sort of falls apart. You kind of look at the games now for SGD tonight. 16th, 1 kill, 9th, 2 kills. And now 1 player left alive in this one. So an absolute disaster. They were a little bit hot and cold yesterday. They did get a big win, 10 kills and a 3rd place, but a 13th and a 15th and an 11th. An up and down kind of week for SGD after what was a tremendous week 1. As we look at this replay, actually from the previous match, for Theraton 5, who obviously had a very good game as well. Didn't go on to win the game, but very much cleaned up above. And yeah, that was very clean against E-Arena to take that position, and it basically got them to the end of the game as well. But yeah, SGD, Jordan, 2nd in week 1. At the moment, they're about to fall out of the top 8 in week 2.
Interesting little setup for Theraton 5 in this game, actually, as well. They've gone out toward the beach, but they do have a bit of a 2-1-1 split. So occupying a lot of territory, giving themselves options for later on down the track when the zone does inevitably move back away from the water, more toward the east. NGE will go past Leo and away from him. Not really too much to play for Leo anymore. Obviously, for SGD, they'd lack 1 or 2 points out of this game. But it does feel at the moment as it's going to be an inevitability that Buran will overtake them.
Well, we kind of put down what the goal with the SGD was, Jordan, and it was maintain top 4. And that is, of course, to get into PGC. Buriram 10 points behind them now. And pressure is firmly on SGD. I actually wrote down SGD equals looking likely to make PGC. And I would scrub that now. I would completely scrub that. It's not looking likely. It's looking a little bit sour. A lot of time and a lot of games to turn it around. And who knows, maybe change of scenery going on to Miramar might be what does salvage things for them. But yeah, that gap is now very, very close. Buriram, you know, for them it was, you know, basically get into the top 4. And by the way, Buriram getting into the top 4, Jordan, is a disaster for everyone else. Team Bliss, the Expendables, AAP.
Yeah. I mean, Buriram and SGD are in a similar scenario, having not played last season. So what's good for one is good for the other in terms of placements. But it might really just come down to one or the other.
That's true. I guess it's more so, yeah, replacing each other, and therefore doesn't actually have that much of an effect to the others. You might be right there.
Well, I mean, it probably doesn't bother Cerberus, Theraton 5 or Daytrade too much.
No.
You know, I think you look at GE, Buriram, SGD, Team Bliss, the Expendables, all those teams are sort of looking at that and they're a little bit worried.
Coming in late through the moment from the future, they will be the last team to really make their way over towards the Gatka Fields.
Big sort of congregation of teams around the quarry. Now that's actually going to be where the zone will be shifting. It's gone a little south. So a lot of movement and shaking to be done for those teams that had to come across from the likes of Zaki. The two Oceanic teams, Bliss and Origami Orangutans, both the most northern teams at the moment. Van, big old spray for NGE as he sees PMA rotating past in their vehicles. Pretty good game last game from PMA. Keep an eye on them.
It's actually been a good week for PMA. Well, actually, sorry, it was last week that was good for them, and I think tonight, I think we are just actually the PMA enjoyers. It seems as if whenever Chunks and Saga are on PMA are down the bottom, and then we get their good nights. With the moment up into 11th, 96 points, close to the Expendables. Skeet taken down by Duck Juice. He might find his second kill and does do so. A good start to the game for Duck Juice inside of 11 minutes. MS Chomburi continue to just bleed players early in these games, and it's usually just Job Jab left alive at the end. Julio pulls up, and Julio falls down and almost get run over. Oh, they've launched it off the cliff, rolling down the stairs, quite literally.
Why?
And it's only Job Jab, and he can't survive. MS Chomburi have gone crashing out of the game.
Someone needs their driver's license removed. I have seen enough tonight. APAC is just doing APAC things. It's unbelievable. Why did he keep going? I have no idea. Either way, Genius Esports, they're down to just Simon. After that last game, they really felt like they were going to be onto something, but seems to be falling apart now. Tycon gets it done for Cerberus. 3 kills already in this game, farming up those fantasy points, and also, importantly, points on the board for Cerberus. They start to build that gap. They grow it again. It's now 7. Doesn't sound like a lot, but when it was 5, it was really tight. Now it starts to 7, 8, 9. You feel like, okay, it's a little bit more comfortable. There's another one. Now it's 8.
As I said before, Jordan, every time it feels like Cerberus are challenged, they respond, and they are starting to do that in this game. Daytrade did get a freebie kill from the MS Chomburi shenanigans, but that was all. Just the one. They do have quarry position, which obviously going to be a big benefactor for them in this game. But as you said before, so aptly, it's a large congregation already, so there's not a lot of room. You can see the orangutans on the beach rotating. They'll be going north of Primorsk, I think, coming in, or at least maybe pushing into T5. Other than that, you've got a couple of teams still spattered around the Gatka Fields. Buriram being one of them. And Mad Dog with a headshot onto Edie. This is not a position you really want to be in. Archangel Predator in a good spot, and they've got 3 kills this game, so a chance for them to turn their fortunes around, but Edie will get brought back up by Kanaxi.
Important for Buriram to keep 4 alive. They are really still on the brink. They can have a good game here. They can overtake SGD, and make their way into the top 4, and that's a potential birth through to PGC right there. Team Bliss have a super open side of the zone, but if this circle shifts away from them, which it has, their woes are going to continue. They've got a long way to go. Not so much in terms of distance, but in terms of teams that they're going to have to go past. Ram, on the other hand, also not feeling too great about that zone shift. And there's a lot of fairly unplayable terrain in that field just out to the east of the quarry. I mean, if you're a team in that field, you're pretty much just going to get farmed by someone on the hill. So I don't think that there's going to be too many teams that are going to want to go there.
Yeah. Shots from inside. Chance maybe on the 777. Didn't hit the initial ones, and he just chucks a U-turn and gets out of there. Difficult shots to land that kind of distance, but the Team Bliss, it's now about a matter of decision making. How do they want to play this rotation? Do they look to go for a long wrap? I think regardless of what direction they go in, there's just going to be a team that they're going to meet at the end of it. There is no way they get into the circle and don't have to fight a team. AAP's close. The Expendables are close. You try and wrap on the western side, Quarry side, you'll be getting shot at by Day Trade. You can't push into Quarry either. And then there's even this team, the Orangutans, south of Quarry too. And then if you go and wrap on the other side, you got Buriram and AAP. So Team Bliss in the worst position out of every team in the lobby at the moment.
It's going to be a hard fought game for them, definitely. No easy streets about it. BMA, though, they're feeling pretty good. What is this? Oh, it's a replay. It just... I just don't know. Who was driving? I can't quite see on this replay. It's either Job Jab or Jow Man.
I think it was Jow Man. I think it would be Jow Man. Job Jab's the fragger, so you would want Jow Man driving.
You're going to give him the benefit of the doubt?
I'll give him the benefit of the doubt.
One of those two, they're banned from driving at this point. This is not a bad spot to actually pull up for Theraton 5. It's going to get them a bit of information.
Ooh, nice shot.
It's obviously not inside of the zone, but they do see E Arena.
Okay, here goes Bliss, and they're just going to send it straight through the Expendables.
They haven't got any other options, though.
Well, yeah, there was the long wrap option. I don't think that would have done much for them. This might be the best option in both finding kills and getting into the zone, but unfortunately, they lose Mirage immediately, followed up shortly thereafter by Insight falling. Bryn already at half health. I mean, this is a disaster for Team Bliss. At least one back the other way from Monty onto Smell. Duck Juice pushing out. They know exactly where they all are as well. This should be a 4K for the Expendables. And in an ideal world, they don't lose Smell as well. They should be able to get him brought back up. Monty's not going to flush anyone. Team Bliss is not going to kill anyone. Oh. It is just that easy for the Expendables. That is a disaster for Bliss. You fed a team that you were contending with, Jordan. All 4 points.
Yeah, that is actually very bad. I mean, look, they're not to know that it's the Expendables right there, and I kind of can't really blame them too much. It doesn't look good for Team Bliss, but I just don't think that there was that many options for them. So sometimes you have two bad choices, and you have to figure out which one's going to be the better. They decided to try to go for the breach. It didn't work. Try to figure it out for Miramar. That's the only thing that they can do now. And unfortunately, off the back of a good first game for Team Bliss, the second and third games haven't really quite come together.
Yeah, I don't want to be too overly critical, but if you're breaching a compound, you generally want to breach it for position for the long run. And that position was not for the long run. So the only thing I can honestly think of is they just honestly wanted to kill that team in that compound, whether they had info on that actually being the Expendables or not, and they wanted to get the kill points and play from there. But otherwise, you could have easily gone for a bit of a long wrap rotation, as we saw from Buriram, and try and make your way in towards the later circles, phases 4, 5, etc., and play for a position there. And if you end up in a position where you've got to crash something, crash a bigger compound too. So it's just some questionable decision-making, I think, in the end.
Sure. I think it was always going to be a tough game for them. Zone shifts were just going away. 2 out of 3 of these games, they've also had to drop on Zaki instead of a military base. So it hasn't exactly been their night on Erangel. Prepared to give them a benefit of the doubt,
obviously, there's
so
devil's advocate, and obviously, you know, we don't want to be ripping on the boys, but it's bottom 4, and you've just given up 4 points to a direct competitor, and you're running out of games.
I'm on board with that. It sucks.
Yeah.
It really sucks. It's not good
squeaky
at all
bum
to give those points, especially to the Expendables. That's the real crux of it. That's the big problem.
And on the flip side,
either way,
on the flip side, Orangutan's here to just sort of now transfer the conversation, they made the long wrap. They made the decision. They were in a pretty similar spot to Team Bliss. They wrapped west side, came in south side of Quarry. Now they're in a position where they might have to fight day trade. That's unfortunate. That's just a little bit unlucky. But I actually think this is a better play.
Nurens is in
They're also
trouble.
in a better position to fight. I mean, Nurens takes a big chunk of damage, red helmet, 19 health. Kang falls to Poo Chills, but at least it's a fight. At least there's a chance. I mean, Poo Chills is sitting inside of the blue. Surely they can actually get this kill, make it 3 versus 3, and it's somewhat winnable. Belmoth coming in now.
Daytrade are in such good form at the moment that I back them to win this fight. They have been supreme this week, and you can just see the confidence that they're playing with right now. They are pushing their way forward, chucking grenades in the direction of Rain, keeping him under pressure, and Nuren's just... I mean, he just deletes Akita. Like, Akita probably hasn't even seen him on his screen, and he's already down. So, how do you beat Daytrade at the moment? They're just too good.
Yeah, they've played this really well. I mean, Poo Chills understanding it's only phase 4 blue. It's not going to be the end of the world. Hiding behind that tree, I think it took a lot of attention away as well from the orangutans. There's a bit of a clean sweep. Well played to them. And they will be the benefactors of those kills. And now they've got 5 of them.
Easy.
They'll be able to clean up and grab all of the utility as well, left over by the orangutans. And now we've got ourselves a bit of a standstill finish here. Cerberus, not a bad spot, but probably the next circle doesn't help them as much as they would have
You're going
liked.
to see some more breaches, I think,
Here
here
comes
because you can't stay in the forest. You cannot stay in that forest. You'll just get farmed.
He's done it.
It's APAC driving all over again.
He's done a cartwheel in a Dacia.
Good parking.
Not bad, actually. He gets front parking position. But this is what I was talking about, right? I think this is something Bliss could have actually done. Long wrap, late rotation, come into this kind of building and breach something like this instead. That was what I was basically alluding to. It may not work out, and at the moment, it's not working out for Buriram either. In fact, they've lost Cheating, and they've got one down as well. But it's still probably the better play in the long run. It's just a really good defense at the moment from E-Arena, and you've also got T5 in this position as well. They will get the revive. They will have 3 players. Nordra getting tagged up, I think, from the forest. That might be actually from Daytrade.
Definitely much better than the alternative option, which is just sitting inside of the forest and kind of getting farmed. Like, there are a couple of spots of cover to work with, but really not a whole lot. And I'm actually kind of watching on the minimap. Daytrade is getting pushed by PMA. Here we go.
Yeah, I mean, it's not even that much of a forest either. It's quite a sporadic
No,
forest.
that's the problem.
In this position, Torrance has got the best field here to see everything in front of him. Gets Pete to half health. There's a down. It's KMF, courtesy of Belmont. He's got 2. But there goes Lawrence, the man of the hour with 4 kills in this game, 8 from the last game. Poo Chills just drives in to clean up. Why not? Can they get the revive, though? Teddy, last one for PMA. Don't think he's long for this world. Cerberus might just make the move, though. I think they've got to get out of their compound and push on to Daytrade. They're seeing this from their compound. Jordan, do they push out?
That drop shot from Belmoth, just enough to keep him alive. I thought he was going to lose that duel. The fact that Daytrade have kept as many members up as they have is a real testament to their strength, and that's going to be the only reason that they're not completely wiped right now. I mean, you could see Haisaki, he was kind of having a bit of a look there for Cerberus. If any more players drop, he's going to go across there and try to finish things off. But Belmoth, yeah, I think the difference maker to keep himself alive. We'll take a look back at Lyrix. Really nice 2-man spray down. Nade, underarm down there as well. And Buriram somehow have kept all 3 of their members alive, but...
Yeah. Only Cheeksing actually died, and they got the revival onto Edie, so it all worked out in the end. And now they've got themselves a good position. 3 players alive, no kills, but you know, into the top 6 now at this point with 20 alive. Phase 5 ending shortly. I think the one thing that definitely helped them there was E-Arena was not a full squad in a position to really capitalize and push down. I think it was only the duo, and it is still just the duo as well. So I think that definitely helped them here. But 9 kills for Daytrade, Jordan. Guess what? 2 points the gap, but they've also got Cerberus to the north of them, so they are going toe for toe right now in this match.
Well, you can really, really hope to see a good circle shift here for Daytrade if that's going to keep them alive. It's not really going to be one. The reason they're still okay is that there is a little bit more cover just by virtue of the hill that they're on, but as you can see, if Poo Chills, for example, has to drive any further forward to go down into the forest, it's not going to be good for them at all. They're at on 5. They're on the move. They're on the move really early. So they've got something in their mind. They want to go somewhere. I actually think moving late out of the compound that they're in is oftentimes a little bit better because there are some defilades on that road that you can play that can keep you safe.
Yep.
They're a little bit like how you going. They're not great. And they're certainly awful if there's still teams inside of the compound, but they're at on 5. they've at least gotten to their vehicles. That's more so what they've opted for here, rather than
Just missed.
to actually exit just yet.
They have to clear this, though. I think Buriram are
yeah.
fully aware that they have to clear this building before they can do anything.
Well, Buriram, Theraton 5, and E-Arena, they like, only one of these three teams is going to be able to get out of here alive.
Okay, this is interesting. I'm assuming they're just going to be trying to wrap and get in front of both Buriram and E-Arena, get to the
I
defilade.
hope they got smokes.
Well, do they need smokes? I think they're actually going to be... They're going to be pretty safe on this side of the road. This defilade is going to cover them on the entire north side. The only teams that they'll have to sort of watch for, of course, is Buriram and E-Arena, who should be fighting each other any time now.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, but it is a position that is open until the zone moves in. So, kind of is what has me worried.
Oh,
But
they're
the fact
getting
that, yeah, there are two still inside
They're getting
of that
an
compound are good.
Just where T5 rocked up, by the way, they've got an absolute crate dropping on their heads. You can actually see it on the minimap. Look at that. Talk about a gift.
I mean,
oh,
that
Larry
might be...
Shotgun down onto Nordra. And remember, they only have the 3 players, so it's a 2 versus 2. The flash! Perfect! But he can't land the shots. He does clear out Nordra, but he loses his life for it. Does confirm the kill. KM99, where are you to help him? Oh, the S12K! He can't get Kanaxi. Edie will survive. Buriram will survive. They get the 2 kills, but they did lose Nordra for it. And Day Trader pushed up, and T5 in the better position, so there's no chance Buriram will get much further in this game.
That was a shotgun with a 4x on it, by the way. Don't know how often you're going to get to see that. But yeah, I mean, this has worked out perfectly now for Theraton 5. Buriram are a little bit worse for where there's only 2 players there. They're not a huge threat to Theraton 5 anymore. Some of that cover starting to look a little better now for Theraton 5 as the zone shifts its way in. Cerberus have also got a nice 2-2 split. They've sent Taikon and Haisaki forward to try to put a bit of pressure onto Day Trade. Here goes Buriram, and by nature, going late means that they're going into a bunch of teams. Poo Chills is going to get that knock onto Kanaxi.
Cerberus.
Yeah, this is their time to strike, though, isn't it? If they can take down Day Trade, that's huge. Haisaki and Taikon find one apiece. There's a trade back, but still another member of Cerberus there, and Day Trade out of the picture. So Cerberus can continue to hang on to first place and even increase the lead now.
I think it got to, what, 2 or 3 points was the margin. And yeah, they'll continue to hold top spot. It goes back out to 6 points. 9 kills for both Cerberus and Day Trade, but only one of those 2 teams will carry on alive. And I tell you what, I would have to say Cerberus might just be the best position to go out and win this game from here. And as I've said before, every time they're challenged, Cerberus just go to that next level. They're able to respond. Edie does a decent job to stay alive, get top 4 for Buriram. Handy points in their endeavor in chasing down SGD. Kanaxi eventually does fall to Haisaki to make that double-digit kills now for Cerberus and further extending that lead. 7 points now. I think by the end of this game, it might be back out to at least 15, 16 points.
Oh, a little bit of a calm before the storm now. NGE and Buriram do feel like the wild cards, the X factors. Maybe not for Buriram anymore. A couple of nice shots and Patton Pong gets the kill onto Edie. So another point in the back pocket of Theraton 5. NGE, they're on the move. I can't imagine they're going to get too much done, but if they even find a way to maybe get 1 knock in this 4-on-4 exchange, then that is going to really be a big problem for either Cerberus or Theraton 5, whoever would lose a player. Fortunately for Neil T, he is just the meat in the sandwich and not going to last very long. So, good old-fashioned 4-on-4, and what a big one this is. Rossiter Jr., he's pushed really far forward and taken a lot of control inside that circle. He's got an angle onto Haisaki as well, but he's seen that rotation come through from Himas, and, well, it does feel like Rossiter Jr. is going to be a big factor in this fight. If he can get a 1 for 0, you know, keep himself alive really is the big point. But if he can even get a single knock, that could just make it all the more easy for Theraton 5 to complete this 4-on-4.
And it's sort of the double edge here, I think, for Theraton 5. You wipe out Cerberus, and that's points that they're not going to get. You can catch up to them. But then the other way, right, the other end of the sword is that if Cerberus wipe you out, it's almost like an 8-point swing, isn't it? So a big moment here for Theraton 5 and maybe their quest, of course, for taking top spot. This was a disaster for SGD and Buriram in keeping up with that #1 position. Back out to about 50 points for them. Massive game from Cerberus. To the credit.
And that circle, it doesn't really favor either team. Like, you got Hayasaki and Rossiter Jr. as the point man, respectively, but they're sort of about as close to the center as one another are.
Yeah, I mean, look, you obviously can sort of nitpick and say, would you rather be in Hayasaki's position? The answer is yes, always. But look at Rossiter Jr. as well. I mean, I think that it's a matter of, does Hayasaki get spotted? It's as simple as, oh, someone stands up, spots him, he dies, no one's rezzing him. I think Cerberus doing a decent job clearing the north side with Himas. They've got really good understanding of what areas they've got control of, whereas T5 are a little bit more congested, a little bit closer. Have they got as much of the zone control? No. So they're just looking for information. Look at how close. And there it is. Rosita Jr. does spot Hayasaki. That great position just doesn't matter anymore. He's dead. He's gone. No revive. Instantly flushed. And at the exact same time, Tycon falls. So Cerberus, for all that control, for all that position, it doesn't matter in the end. It was Deraton 5 that spotted them first, shot them first, and from here should win the game.
Yeah, you would think so. It's a 2-on-4, and Cerberus, in fact, they're actually going to do what Daytrade did a little bit earlier on, maybe. Decide to give up some points to the zone, to the Molly in this case, for Himas. They know that those extra points to Theraton 5 could actually, tomorrow, be the difference between a first place and a second, or potentially even worse than that. Theraton 5, though, they will walk away with the win and at least 2 of the kills. So they continue their very, very strong week as well. But as has always been the case, Cerberus, they show up when it matters.
Yes.
And they get the points on the board that mean no one can overtake them. They're still hanging on. They're tenacious, if nothing else.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's been said time and time again that they're just always able to respond, Cerberus, when things are looking a little bit bleak, when others are contesting them and coming for that top spot. They're always able to fire back a big shot. They did so in that game. They weren't able to win it, though. Full credit to Theraton 5. Played it well. Honestly, just sort of played the silent game. Sat still, tried to see if they could scout out for Cerberus pushing up. Hayasaki maybe got a little bit over-eager with the snake game and eventually gets caught out by Rosita Jr., who I think was probably in the best position. But overall, Cerberus 3 had, as a team, better portion of the circle, better portion of the zone. Just weren't able to capitalize. Couldn't find anyone from T5, had no info. And T5, it's always quite damning to lose 2 players in one go. You lose Hayasaki, you lose Tycon, that's probably the game. So, look, big game, though, from basically all of our contending teams. Can't forget about Daytrade as well. Jordan, 9 kills. Again, placement points as well. So the gap to first, really not that big. But what has kind of now happened is the gap of the top 3 is starting to form to everyone else.
Yeah, I mean, I think that kind of started yesterday, but it's continued to compound upon itself. Yesterday, there was, I think, 2 games out of the 5 where Cerberus, Daytrade, and Theraton 5 were the top 3, or maybe it was like one of the top 4. There might have been a case where one of those players, one of those teams rather, was in the top 4 instead of the top 3. But a large portion of the points this week are actually getting soaked up by the top teams. I think largely a lot of that is coming down to the fact that teams like SGD have kind of fallen off a little bit in terms of their output. Buriram as well, you know, it hasn't quite come together so much for them. So those were like the 2 other teams that were kind of keeping things interesting, but they've fallen off the pace a little bit, which has kind of left a lot more points available for the top 3. And yeah, I think they've run away with it now pretty much. It's a 3-horse race in my opinion. SGD and Buriram, they need to pretty much have 2 big Miramar games to close the night out to sort of keep me interested, but it doesn't look like it's happening for them tonight.
Forgetting maybe the bigger picture when it comes to PGC, Jordan, is that for Buriram and for SGD, they don't need to finish top 3. It's almost, I mean,
that's a factor too.
The battle for 4th is maybe the battle for PGC, and it could come down to that tomorrow. We'll, of course, know more tomorrow when there's only 5 games left. You get the smaller sample size. You kind of can sort of put everything together in terms of the overall picture. But I think that's what it may end up coming down to. Is that the top 3 will sort of battle for the top spot, and let's be honest, the top 3 I think are all basically going to PGC anyway. It's just a matter of who wins what and who finishes where. But that battle for 4th, still massive ramifications. Then on top of that battle for 4th is, after that, is the battle between AAP, Expendables, and Team Bliss. So still so much to be decided going into tomorrow and still today. Still a lot to fight for. Patton Pong, the player of the match, well, Norin's put up 8 kills and 1100 damage. And Patton Pong put up 2 kills and 188 damage. You do the math as to who was maybe more the real player of the matches from their games, respectively. But yeah, sometimes it is just the way it goes, Jordan, in these kind of matches. For Teratom 5, wasn't necessarily a massive win. They had to just do the job. 19 points now, the gap for them to Cerberus, and for Daytrade, it's 11 points to Cerberus. So they were able to sort of re-extend that lead. And yeah, like I said, the top 3, 30 points, Jordan, is the difference between Teratom 5 and SGD. Big fall from them and also from Buriram.
Yeah, it's gone out to 11 points. I mean, that's obviously still quite a tenuous lead, but it's better than 5. Down toward the midsection of the scoreboard, though, things are still pretty interesting. The Expendables, they're barely clinging on to 8th at the moment over E-Arena. But there's still, like, yeah, any number of teams that could claim themselves a top 8. I think if you're in the 90s, which is all the way down to 14th place in Origami Orangutans and Team Bliss, both on 92, you could look at that and say, yeah, we can definitely still grab a top 8. I think top 7 might be out of the realms of possibility for those guys now. Maybe 30 points starts to feel difficult to bring back over the course of a day and a half. But I suppose mathematically it is possible. But yeah, I mean, there's just still so many possibilities, so many sort of little intricacies, little bits of math that we need to figure out to see who's going to be going through to PGC and who is just going to be missing out. It feels like this time tomorrow night, we're going to be in a really tight race, not just for first place in PCS 7, but also for placement points to get those PGC points to go through to PGC. And by the end of the night, there's going to be a couple of teams that are bitterly disappointed, because it really does feel like it's going to be, you know, maybe 5-10 points the difference.
Yeah, and for what it's worth, there's maybe, believe it or not, maybe, Jordan, a chance that both SGD and Buriram could find a way to both go through. I think actually that's something that has maybe been missed here a little bit. I'm not saying that's guaranteed to happen. I think it might actually just be a possibility we may have forgotten to even touch on. So maybe a chance that they both go through, holding 4th and 5th respectively either way. The other part of course, all of this, the Expendables, they are up into 8th now, and that was one of the goals we kind of set for them to get 8th place, because of course for the Expendables they had 50 points from PCS 6. If they get 8th, there's another 50. That's 100 points, and guess what? 100 is obviously more than the 95 points that 5th place gets. So at the moment, as it stands, Buriram are out of PGC, and the Expendables are in to PGC.
How long is that going to last?
Well,
though?
it may last literally, it may last 30 minutes.
Yeah, they're one of those teams that could just literally pop off in this game. And, you know, like, what was it last season? 21 kills or something like that in one game?
Yeah.
It's not impossible for them to do that again. And we're going into Miramar as well, which is the map that happened on. I also will say Miramar, it's Daytrade's playground, although it kind of feels like Erangel's also been Daytrade's playground this week. So maybe everything is Daytrade's playground. And if they continue that form, then Cerberus, watch out. 2 games left to go tonight, and then, of course, 5 tomorrow. We're starting to get to the pointy end of things.
Alrighty, let's head into Miramar. We've got 2 games remaining for today. Of course, we've still got one more whole day of play, though, tomorrow. 5 more games tomorrow after these 2 today. So 7 games remaining for these teams. So much on the line. As I just basically said, you know, Jordan, for Buriram, they're technically 4 points away from a PGC slot, etc. Like, all of those kind of calculations are not going to be done tonight. We're going to be going into tomorrow night still with so much on the line, and that's really all you can ever hope for. Not only that, we don't even know who's going to win the bloody event at the moment. It could be back-to-back PCS events for Daytrade, Cerberus. Maybe they break through, get a big win. Teratom 5, of course, you can't count them out either, as we watch them drop down fresh off of their chicken dinner from the last round. 201 points, so only the 3 teams that have now cracked 200 points, and then it's a 30-point gap to SGD. Part of the equation too. Is this where SGD and Buriram return to form on Miramar? These 2 games, do they go big? Do they catch back up to the top 3 and set us up for a massive games tomorrow? We'll have to see, but they need to do it now. Smell, not going to land this one.
Oh, I was excited for a second there. I want to point out another alternate drop here for Team Bliss. They're not going to get into Los Leonas. The plane paths have not been kind to them tonight. This is the 3rd alt drop. Maybe is it the 4th? I don't know what the drop was for Team Bliss in game 1. I didn't sort of keep up with it, but I know it was Zaki and now Campo Militar basically. So not ideal. But Circle has moved over the top of El Pozo. We'll catch up with the players of the last match. And look, I guess I guess Patompong got it because he won, but Tycon with 8 kills and 687 damage doesn't seem a bad shout to me.
No. Yeah, look, it's obviously just the way it goes, right? Is the winning team's going to get the player of the match, but Tycon, massive performance when the game was on the line, middle portion.
Yeah.
He was a big factor in getting a lot of those kills. So Cerberus, 12 kills, second place from that particular game, remaining in that top spot. Shen, though. Now, this is a player that probably deserves some kind of spotlight, but for all the wrong reasons, Jordan, because 3 games in a row, Shen has just been dying early for SGD, out of position for SGD, and has just
He might die
struggled.
again.
And yeah, this is why. He might die to something else.
This is an interesting creep from Shen. He knows that GE like to drop around this area, so he's going to go for a little bit of an expedition. But I mean, if he gets the timing wrong, or makes a little bit of noise, something else hears him, someone spots him on this cross, he's just creeping his way over. This could go very, very wrong for him. Something
there's the
else
shot.
doesn't really seem to have any idea though, and so this should be Shen's for free big spray. He's got it. There you go. All right, well, it pays off this time.
Yeah. Yeah, no, he played that really well. You go the silent route, and that way you're not making any noise, you're able to hear out for the player running around looting. As soon as that shot goes out from something else, it's all but confirmed. Shen goes prone. Shen holds the angle. And does get the kill. Risk versus reward, I guess, is the nature of it. For Shen, in the last couple of games, he's just not quite been able to win those kind of... well, I don't really want to say duel or an exchange because it's very one way, but he's just been going out early 3 games in a row. Nice to see him get one to go his way this time around. Obviously, not ideal for something else. Not ideal for GE, who's had a pretty good week so far in 7th place, only 4 points behind MS Chombiri. They'll have to play as 3 for the remainder of this game. Obviously, for Cerberus, 11 points is the lead over to Miramar. They'll be looking to remain in that top spot. From the future, they had that battle in the battle of the bottom 2 in the last game, Jordan. They won that one pretty cleanly. 76 points for them, 16 points behind the Orangutans.
Speaking of the Orangutans, an El Pozo Circle, and that was very favorable for them last week. I believe it was the El Pozo Circle that they won on Miramar. Or if not the one that they won, it was the one where they took a 2nd place and picked up 17 points. So here's another opportunity for them to put some really big points on the board. A bunch of other teams have a big rotate. I'm interested to see what Team Bliss is going to do. Are they just going to go hard north, go, through La Cobb and around and sort of come down from the northern side? Or do they try to rotate through like maybe San Martin or something like that, which would be a much busier area of the map? I have to imagine it's going to be the northern option. NGE in Cruz the Val as well. We might see them, maybe a step ahead of Team Bliss on the rotation. They could be a good insight as to what's going to occur for the team that dropped in Campo Militar. Might just follow in the footsteps of NGE, who sort of seem to be following in the footsteps of Archangel Predator. You can catch up with all of that on the map stream, PUBG Esports map, if you're interested. I know it's a little bit delayed this season. Not much we can do about that, unfortunately, but it's still pretty useful to keep an eye on.
Much better week from NGE as well. I think they were dead last in week 1, and so far 45 points from their matches has almost actually matched their total from week 1 already. So they're kind of a little bit more middle of the pack. Which, when I look at that roster, I probably think that's a little bit more where they'd like to see themselves. Flash lands
I thought it was going to
perfectly.
happen again. Do you remember last week?
I do remember. Yeah, I would imagine Daytrade would like to forget. SGD, though, again with PMA. We've seen this a couple of times, but Shen, like his opening kill, just has the prey in front of him without them being aware at all. Takes a tag back. That was from Mr. Clay, a long way away. Pete's the one that's up close. There is Mr. Clay with the mini 14, 6 times. He did land a tag earlier onto Shen, now looking at Jervis. But he's not really that close to help out his teammates here. A chance for SGD to get a couple more early kills.
He's just going to keep going, isn't he? This guy's a machine. He just wants to fight. Headshot onto Pete. Pete's dead. No trade to come through just yet onto Shen. And it looks like he's going to get away with it as well. He's just gotten his head ducked back down. His teammates are there too. He's a one-man army. PMA are wondering what on earth has just occurred. Icarus are also hanging around, but I don't know. Zhen's just he's just cutting through teams left, right, and center at the moment.
It's crazy how that doesn't get punished. I feel like internationally that's just not going to work, right? Like I don't see a way Shen survives that in a big international lobby. I think pushing out, being that aggressive, probably gets him killed, especially when you've got two Overwatchers watching in on that location. Over towards the arena though, and Icarus, and it's Zizzy and KM99 combining onto Y8. Further bad news for Icarus, who I would say really, as the tournament has gone on, Jordan, they've just gotten worse and worse. Bottom 4 in week 1 and dead last here in week 2.
It's a competitive lobby.
It certainly is, and there's no shame in being last in a very competitive lobby, but it just, to me, feels like it's just falling away as the event has gone on. It's just that gradual decline.
Yeah, certainly. And again, that is what you'd expect to see, right? When you draw it out and you get a bigger sample size, the better teams are going to move up slowly and the weaker teams are going to move down slowly. It's just the law of averages and the nature of a game like PUBG. That's why we want to see these longer form tournaments rather than, what sometimes used to crop up, 10, 12 games, something like that. Doesn't give you the most accurate representation because the value of one game is going to be so much higher, and one good game can really skew the results a little bit. Buriram on the move. Bit of rocky terrain for them here. Not too much going on in that area of the map, though. Not too many teams. I like this spot for Rossiter Jr., and I actually like the spot that Theraton 5 have got themselves all around Crater. Got a lot of info to be gathered from their positions, and they're not really under too much early pressure. So this could, again, be another really good early game for Theraton 5, and whether or not they convert that, remains to be seen. But obviously, in terms of what we've seen so far today, I think Theraton 5 are one of those teams that you'd expect to be able to convert off of a good start.
Yeah, definitely. 19 points behind top spot. Theraton 5 have continued on after a very good week 1, where they were finished 4th place, and at the moment, their week 2 performance would have to have been 2nd if it had been the week 1 results. 30 seconds until phase number 2. Somewhat quiet, only 4 deaths. Start this game. So much real estate, though, still involved with this kind of circle. 4, make it actually 5 major cities still in play here for phase 1. El Pozo, Montenuevo, Picado, San Martin, and La Cob. How many, if any, well, of course, if any, how many will be sort of taken out going into phase number 2? Who's going to have to get moving? There's a lot of teams that are quite stagnant here, and it's a very hard south shift. Picado way, Montenuevo way, perfect for day trade. Cerberus as well on the south side of this circle will be very content. The northern teams, though, Jordan, a lot of rotating, a lot of moving and shaking to be done in this next phase.
Yeah, I think a few teams might have been expecting that to head a little bit closer to El Pozo than what it has, but this southern shift is going to be chaos, really. Bliss have actually made the right call. Man almost runs himself over. Got a little bit of a splat there, but he'll be okay until he starts receiving shots from Duck Juice. He's got the Orm and the level 3 helmet out of there, so he'll be okay. Today is dropped on his rotation by Mr. Clay. It's going to start to get a little bit more like this, though. With this kind of a zone shift, you're going to see teams rotating past each other. It's going to be a little bit of a frantic fight here and there. There's so many teams that now have to move down south. Ooh. KM99 doesn't want a bar of it.
Yeah, and doesn't need to. He's got the rest of his team just behind him. There's plenty of real estate inside of Montenuevo. Don't need to be pushing into Icarus there. I don't think these will be the last 2 teams to make their way into this city either with this kind of circle, depending on sort of what happens with phase 3, 4. If it does shift over towards the west, Montenuevo can get quite jam-packed very quickly, but you've still got a lot of real estate. Power grid, Picado technically is also still in. El Pozo Fields is still in. I mean, there's a lot of mountain ranges as well, a lot of bowls, a lot of dips. Phase 2 circle for Miramar, there's plenty. There's usually plenty.
Yeah, I'm probably looking for this next zone to go into the direction of day trade. There's a lot of sort of cliffs and hilly sort of terrain that's around the northern side of this zone. So I think the 2-2 split that day trade have set up is actually quite a good one. It's going to be a scary prospect for all the teams that are trying to stave off day trade. especially Cerberus sitting at the top of the table. They're down towards the south, so they're actually not doing too poorly for themselves zone-wise either. Origami Orangutang's on their way, and I don't know if they wanted to crash this building, but that would definitely have been a mistake. Rip, does he get out alive? Just maybe by the skin of his teeth? Tooth? I don't know. Whatever. Jervis can't land that spray. It's Kang, the only one to drop for
FP steals
Origami
it,
Orangutans.
Yeah, Icarus steal that away, though, from SGD, who honestly need all the points that they can get to make up for a slow day today. Genius Esports, though, and the Expendables. Just lost Ninja 2K, but a big down onto Glorious. Great nade usage from Duck Juice. Over and above into this concrete building. He'll go and throw a couple more. He just seemingly has it down pat. That one exploded a little bit early. Smell got Simon, but then traded by Yuta, who's the only one left alive now for Genius Esports. Smoke goes out, but too late for the utility. 777 was already in his face. Clean fight in the end from the Expendables. They lost one, but they get the 3 kills. So 3 for 1, you'll take it. Further points for them, getting closer to even getting into the top 7 and not that far away from 6th.
One step at a time. It's looking quite good for the Expendables this week. Will the zone shift favor them at all, though? On straight over the top of Day Trade, straight over the top of Cerberus. MSC, like I said, expecting those to go a little bit further south than anything else, so it's worked out really well for them. Team Bliss, actually, for their own right, don't have the worst of positions. You can get a lot of information from that cliff face. And it's quite hard for teams to rotate past them, so it's unlikely they're going to run into anyone at this point. So they should actually have a fairly free side of the zone to rotate through. Theraton 5 way up to the north are not getting a helping hand from this zone shift or the last. And what started off looking like a really good game for them with the early high ground position that they had is starting to become quite a difficult one to negotiate. And this is where they could potentially drop out of a really, really close contention with Day Trade and Cerberus. Like, it's not as if they're going to jump out of the race at all. There's still a whole day to go. But if they were to have a bad game here and get knocked out on this rotation across, then Cerberus and Day Trade run away with things.
Don't know how Nan actually fully survived that nade. Thought it was close enough, but yeah, he did survive it. Rain goes down.
Puchel's dead.
Yeah, Puchel's dead. Day Trade made a big push, by the way, Jordan, across the road. So they actually pushed up to a new position, and they lost Puchel's for it.
Well, it was their 2-2 split that they actually had. They were sending 2 players back over to the north, which they were already in control of. But I think they were getting pushed by Icarus at that time, and maybe Cerberus got shots on the cross and knocked Puchel's out of a vehicle, would probably be my guess. So they're down to 3. Maybe this will be a replay of it. No, not quite. Unfortunate. But yeah, the big takeaway is Day Trade's down to 3, which is really great news if you're Cerberus. Rossiter Jr. is
what's happened here?
Standing on his own.
How has he got to this position by himself? I'm assuming the rest
They're up north.
Theraton 5 aren't too far away from him. Spray from Shen, who has just gone it alone this game. Sick of the team fight, sick of the team play. He just wants to find kills with a bit of help from Jervis. They do get Rosita Jr. Now comes Theraton 5, but I think it's too late. They feel it's too late. They don't even want to attempt to save their teammate at all. They drive on by. Say goodnight, Ross. We'll see you into the sunset, and SGD will collect that free kill. T5 more so worried about getting a good position. Tires,
I think they're worried about their
completely torn to tatters here. They're just going to have to get as far as they possibly think they can before getting out. Throwing a couple of smokes. They make it to the shack just barely. By the skin of their teeth, they make it in. SGD, though, will be bearing down on them, I think, very quickly.
Yeah, not the shack. Broken the door open just to give them a little bit more room to work with. Straight back into the smoke, but they don't have a vehicle. They can't get out of here, not safely. So they're just going to have to fight their way out. Rossiter Jr.'s gone down to the zone. Inside also got knocked, and he looks a little bit isolated there on the map, so I don't know that he's going to be getting picked back up at all. Seen Team Bliss play this 2-2 split before, but now it's a 2-1 split, and with the Expendables so close by, Monty's going to need to be really careful he doesn't get collapsed upon. SGD, the team up in the northern side of the map that most are going to have to worry about, but they also have problems of their own. Here goes Cerberus too on a rotation. This is an interesting push. It's a 1-for-1. AT inside the building. You've already got an extra Icarus player coming across. This could be a mistake for Cerberus.
It certainly has been a mistake, and it's going to be punished That nade, though, just bounces away from Isaki. Dead, though. No one's even going remotely close for that revive now. And also, the other two members of Cerberus, Jordan, they're getting pushed on by Team Bliss as well in the warehouse. So expect that maybe to sort of flare up towards the south side of the circle. Noran's getting the down onto Vent. Can't make it back inside of the building. He's gone out for the count. 3 kills now for Day Trade, and there is that push. Cerberus and Bliss. Bryn, though, tries to push in, and he gets caught by Duckmai. Dies immediately. Tycon pressured by Julio straight into the sightline of Mirage. Big chance for Bliss, but they lose Monty. Monty goes down to 777 of the Expendables. It's just not been their tournament. Nothing has gone their way. And even a chance to push onto a duo, Cerberus, has now fallen away from them. Tycon, though, I think, does die here. Monty's well and truly gone. You can see off into the distance. It will be just Mirage that is left for Team Bliss. Tycon gone, though, as well. So Cerberus just down to 1 player, Jordan.
Yeah, shenanigans really on that push into the warehouse for a bunch of teams. Cerberus, the Expendables, Bliss, they're all involved. Icarus as well, a little bit earlier on in the piece. Been a bit quieter up toward the north, but they're at on 5. They might look for a bit of revenge here. Shen quite close by in that vehicle. Exquisite not going to chance a shot across. Day Trade will, though. I'm wondering where SGD are going to hope to pull up here. Jervis has been knocked out of that vehicle. Leo will have to continue on his merry way. But where's he going to land? Where's he going to finish?
Belmont's by himself. Completely by himself in a 1 versus 4 with AAP. Noran's flash elsewhere, tries to just get into the vehicle, throw some smoke, some nades, just buy some time with that utility, and it's worked. He's actually played this really well, and he can make his way back over to Flash and Noran's, and they'll be able to cover him the whole way. Well played, Belmoth. Well played. Didn't even try to contest it. And that's how you're going to end up in first place, those kind of plays.
Bit of a breach coming in here from the Expendables. Duckmai is answering it nicely. He's on for the 3K. Won't be given the chance to peek through the window. Did not come on through, but Duckmai, he goes out the window. He does not care. He has just 1 on 3 the Expendables and made it look so damn easy.
That is massive for Cerberus. Just some extra points in a game where it may not look like they're going to get a whole lot. You've got 6 kills now. And a solo player still alive, but hard to see him getting placement points from this game. But still 6 points, 6 kills on the board. Day Trade down to 3. A very heavily wounded top 4, in fact, might I say, but of a top 4 that has already picked up a lot of the kills in this game. Day Trade 14 points behind Cerberus, but you're down a player. You had to just retreat from a more forward position. They're not inside of the zone in this warehouse. It's not in. This Pat and Pong is, I guess, just going to go down to the blue. A rough game for Theraton 5. They've been largely a very consistent team, Jordan, but this one just didn't quite go their way.
Pat and Pong will go down to the zone. Fair enough. It was not Theraton 5's game at all. The zone shifts just continued to move away from them. But this could really open the door up for Day Trade to put a bit of room between themselves and Theraton 5 and make it a 2-horse race rather than a 3-horse race. The fact that Cerberus still have a player alive as well, though. Never mind. Spoken too soon. Duckmai's gone down. And so Day Trade will start to close the gap. There's no question about that. With the 3 players they've still got up, they should be able to get some more points on the board. Nurans was knocked, but he should be getting picked back up in just a second. Team Bliss out in 11th. Buram all in the same vehicle. Canaxi's been left on the back end, but he's losing teammates all the way across. Nordra's done as well. Buram, they were in a spot of bother, really, weren't they? But unfortunately, it's, again, one of those situations where either choice they made was going to be a bad one.
Yeah, well defended, though, by MS Chomburi. Julia had a nade cooked anyway, but Skeet got the double kill when they were rotating in. Belmoth just, well, ducking and weaving as best as he possibly can, but that little airtime, I think, has cost him. Just gave CJ a bit of a chance to get that headshot. Smoke went out. Too late. Gone. Dead. Now, MS Chomburi got a little bit more defending to do. They lose Julio straight away to Trick, so it's only the 3 players. Don't see many nades in hand, but there are some going out, regardless. Molotov as well. Skeet actually straight into that Molotov. I think he might just go down here. Jowman still up. They got another one as well. So Skeet does fall to the Molotov. Jowman and Job Jab, 2 up for MS Chomburi. Can they salvage this?
Job Jab gonna have to deal with all that util that's gonna get tossed in his direction. Jowman and Job Jab, though. Nice crossfire established. And it gets them one. It's a 1-for-1, though, in the end, as Man comes in the backside of the building and finishes off Jowman. So it's just Jobjab trying to stay alive. He's dropped himself. Is it a nade or a smoke? It's a nade. Doesn't matter. From the future are miles away from that, and so it'll be MSC out in 9th. Where's the next circle shift going to go? And, I mean, who's even in a position to win this game? EA and Archangel Predator maybe are the two. They've got 4 and 3 players respectively. No, 4 and 4 players, I should say. SGD also have 3, and actually the SGD spot is a little bit better. So here's a chance for SGD to get some redemption. First 3 games of the night have not been good for them, but if they have a decent finish here, they might just be back into the swing of things.
Yeah, like I said, I think maybe the switching of the scenery might be in the fortunes for them, and it's played out that way so far. Shen has just had a field day, literally running around finding kills early on. He's still got 3 players alive late into the game. You're getting placement points, a good way to now extend your gap to Buriram and keep in touch with the top 3. Replay of something, anything would be great. And yeah, Skeet's double kill with the M416. Really good spray, and like I said, Julia had a nade prepped for this vehicle. So even if he doesn't get those 2 kills, I still think Buriram were in a world of hurt anyway. Nurans and Flash,
might be.
last 2 alive, and yeah, I think AAP should be able to clean them up here. They got all 4 players. Surely they don't mess this one up.
Well, they've got to do it without losing players. That's going to be the key difference maker. Akita has already knocked Evil Patrick. There is a trade in response, but Archangel Predator, they won't want to be dealing with origami orangutans right now. They've got bigger fish to fry. Day Trade have not taken advantage of that opportunity, though. The smokes are starting to fade, too, and Nurans he doesn't have any left. He's only got the HE nade. Going to toss that one into the doorway. It's not going to provide him too much, but Flash with the shotgun has opened up. Mad Dog is finished off. It's not clean at all by any stretch of the imagination for Archangel Predator.
Oh, no.
Flash, he's going to keep going. It's origami orangutans that have done the lion's share of the job. Look at that angle.
Through the window. Rip has ripped the hearts out of AAP, completely ruining their entry onto Day Trade, who have kept both their players alive. A calamity for the Philippines team. They get nothing from that at all, Jordan. And the orangutans go out anyway. Day Trade are now single digits behind Cerberus once again.
Can they make it less than 5? That's been the closest they've gotten so far. Still 2 players left alive, but not in a great position at all and having to move into the zone. I think they're starting to run out of smokes as well, unless Archangel Predator gave them a few. They would have had time to pick them up. That might be the saving grace for Day Trade if they can put a couple of smokes down and just keep their heads down for a moment. Get some more placement points here. Close that gap. That is exactly what they're hoping for. Good spray in from Shen is going to say otherwise. Nurans is down. I don't think he gets picked up. Flash is going to give it a crack. Has got smokes to play with, but SGT, they will really want to clear out this side of the zone. If they do so, they're very safe on this side of the road. They just need to get rid of Day Trade. They're looking for it.
Well, the nade gets rid of Nurans, but hasn't quite got rid of Flash. No, and he's certainly capable of one final nade. He throws it short, maybe expecting the push, but they haven't pushed up. They've actually held their positions, and Leo spots him, gets the tag. Smoke is dissipating. And SGD, of course, inside of the circle, and there's more watching. AT will just take the kill. So thank you very much. So second place still confirmed for Day Trade. 9 points behind Cerberus. It's heating up on the top 3. And SGD making their redemption arc as well here on Miramar. Shen making his redemption arc, Jordan, after 3 horrible games with Erencal. He leads the way for their little comeback here. 46 points behind the top spot. But, you know, you do well again in the next game. And who knows what could happen then tomorrow.
Indeed. They're definitely not out of the race just yet. But it was looking quite grim for them today. From the future could still be a spoiler to their plans. E-Arena. They're going to try to deal with Icarus and From the Future as well. I mean, you have to say it's probably E-Arena that are looking the most favorable if they can breach this compound. But are they the kind of team that you expect to be able to do that cleanly without losing a player?
Bant falls to Sapnix. Leo, can he confirm the points here? Big points for SGD if he can do so, and does so. 5 kills now for Shen. Now the push comes from E-Arena. Icarus, will they be able to defend this? The duo I'm not so sure. An early flash onto Sapnix. Not sure if that was friendly fire or from Icarus. Might have been from Icarus. FP and AT pushing up the stairs as KM. And he does find the kill. Zizzy falls to FP, but now he's in a 1v3. Opens the door and says good night. Good push from E-Arena. But here comes Shen. The man just can't stop running.
He's fearless. But he's very cool, calm, and collected as well, isn't he? He's not just charging headlong into danger. He's creeping his way forward. He's the silent assassin of this game. E-Arena will have no idea. SGG have actually crossed 2 players over. Have left 1 back. Delta Mix, of course, is also still going to be a factor, but look at how close Sophia's got, and Shen has now struck as well. It's not going to be a kill converted. Not just yet, but he can go for more.
Yeah, and look, we've seen big performance individually. I mean, Nuren's had 8 kills and 1,100 damage a couple of games ago, but it feels like we have seen every single kill from Shen so far, and most of them, Jordan, have been off the back of his own hard work. Leo finds the kill onto Delta Mix, so it's down to a couple of remaining big plays, and that's a big one from KM99 to get rid of Leo. Shen and Sophia in a 2 versus 4 against E-Arena, but they're already at the compound. They can cause enough chaos here and havoc to still maybe win this game. KM99, the trigger discipline from Shen. It's impeccable. Doesn't give away his position. Waits for the perfect time, but he couldn't get the down. Only half HP, but Sophia does the rest. It's a 2
they knew that
versus
they'd
3.
isolated him. They knew that they had isolated him, and it really did come down to Sophia's position being unknown. Shen takes the initial fight. Sophia, they didn't know at all where he was, and so they're able to bring it down to a 3-on-2, which is much more winnable. Intelligent play from SGD. It's just such a shame that they lost Leo on the other side of the road. Otherwise, this could have really been quite a solid scenario for SGD. Gets more difficult now though, that both Shen and Sophia's position are more or less known, and Lyrix is up on top of the roof. He's going to be a hard one to dislodge, can get a lot of info for EA as well.
But if you do dislodge him, it's really difficult to get him back into the game. Any down at this point, so critical. Nice sweeping from Sapnix. At least confirming the other side of the compound. The only thing Shen and Sophia can do right now is sort of play off of each other. Sophia, though, actually moves away from Shen. Sapnix, that's the only nade he's got. Stands up, he gets the spray. Sophia was out in the open. It's been the Shen show so far, but now he needs to give us the encore of a 1v3 clutch to really cement one of the more all-time individual performances. But Lyrix has the drop. If he even remotely pushes out of this building, he is dead. He has to stay in here. And he has to hope that basically E-Arena push into him and make a massive mistake.
Well, are we likely to see another 1-on-3 tonight? I'm not sure. This one doesn't seem too easy. It's a good nade. It's already tagged Shen down quite substantially to 18. Push doesn't come through from E-Arena. They're really trying to 100% this one. And they know Shen is cooked. He cannot win. If they just hold the exit to this building, they don't even have to technically push into him, but
here we
they
go.
will.
He's got the Uzi, the micro Uzi. Are they prepared for this? He just swings out, gets a bit of information, could have actually gone out the window, and now does so after closing the door, expecting to run out. Sapnix, was that the sawn off?
I think so.
To finish it off. A couple of smiles, some cheers for E-Arena. They get a much-needed win in trying to cement themselves towards the middle point of the overall standings. They overtake the Expendables. I think they've even overtaken MS Chonburi as well. Big result for them, big win.
Big win indeed, and they're really happy with it, you can see. They've been searching for it for a while, and they get it over the line. E-Arena have been one of the more exciting teams to actually watch in this season of PCS. I've kind of liked their addition this time around. Wasn't really sure what to expect from them, but it's been fun, and I think they deserve the win.
Yeah, first win of the tournament as well for E-Arena, so congratulations on the chicken dinner. Their first for PCS APAC. Always nice to see the new entrants getting able to get on the winner's sheet. Big result for them. Obviously, commiserations to Shen. It feels like even more than just SGD. Jordan, because Shen was absolutely putting on a clinic in that game. He had a big performance, but hey, team first and then individual second, and it's the team of E-Arena that came out on top here on Miramar. It had everything, and so far this tournament, has had everything as well. Heating up at the top, the middle portion of the standings. There was a moment in time there, Jordan, where the Expendables were in a PGC slot. They are now out of that PGC slot. That is what they are teetering on around that 8-9 position. So it's it shows how close things are here for PCS 7 APAC.
Definitely can still change over the next 6 games. That's all we've got remaining for PCS 7. One more tonight. SGD at least have sort of upheld their end of the bargain there. Second place with 9 kills. It doesn't quite bring them back into the fold for the top 3 kind of discussion, but they are not too much further away than they would have hoped. I guess they're now sort of within striking distance. If they have another good game, they're kind of back into that same sort of area as what Theraton 5 are. But admittedly, Theraton 5 have also kind of fallen off the pace a little bit when compared to Daytrade and Cerberus. So final game of the day is going to come up in just a minute, and that I think is going to tell us a lot how things are going to look heading into tomorrow, obviously.
Certainly. I did say, by the way, Irina maybe have overtaken MS Chonburi. No, 3 points behind
Not
them.
quite.
So very, very, very close, though. And yeah, Expendables dropping down to 9th, I think, from what was 8th. And yeah, so out of that PGC slot momentarily. It's still obviously not too far away from being able to maybe reclaim it, but a big result from Irina has them firmly in the top 7. And I think that's a pretty good result anytime a new team comes in. PCS APAC, it can usually be sort of bottom 5, bottom 6 territory. So if you're fighting in the middle of the pack in what is a very, very competitive region, very difficult to find wins in this region and to sort of stay at the top. So you've got to be at your best. And to be hanging around 7th, full kudos to E-Arena. Genius Esports still in 8th as well, so they're still hanging around that middle of the pack. Down towards the bottom though, Jordan, because that was actually a game that had a lot of the teams towards the bottom. From the future, Icarus, both actually lasting quite some time in that particular game. Icarus 4th, 6 kills. From the future, 3rd, 7 kills. That's actually kind of put some pressure on Team Bliss, who are now 10 points away from being back last again.
Yeah, I mean, if they get last, then I guess any conversation around them going to PGC is probably going to be put to bed. It's really not looking good for Team Bliss. I thought, you know, the start of the day looked nice for them, but it's kind of gone downhill from there. And the deeper we go, the less and less chances they have to make their way through to PGC. It's not as if they needed to win, and they still don't. But I think the chances even of them making it into the top 8 or whatever they need to get are slowly becoming slimmer and slimmer. E-Arena, very happy with the performance of Sapnik so far in this event. He's actually been a bit of a breakout, I think, for these guys. It's, again, a team that we didn't really know what to expect from, hadn't really seen too much of. But yeah, Sapnik, I feel like he's been pretty much the pick of the bunch for E-Arena. And I mean, 130 points in this lobby at this point. I think they've done really well for themselves.
Yeah, they certainly have. Consistent. You know, 6th was where they were at the end of week 1, and so far through week 2, they're now tied 8th and only 1 point behind 7th, right? So I think, yeah, they've been firmly a consistent team in the middle portion of the lobby. Here is the leaderboard, though. Cerberus, it's now once again single digits, 9 points above Daytrade. So that battle for Vietnam and Thailand really heating up. But if you want to go to the extremities, Jordan, Thailand are in 2nd, 3rd, 5th, 6th, and 7th. There is not a single Thai team on the right-hand side of the scoreboard. Domination from Thailand so far for PCS 7. So, you know, kudos to them. But obviously at the moment, there's a Vietnamese team on top.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? I think actually, generally speaking, if we look back at the history of PCS, Thailand has been the strongest region, and a lot of that is obviously down to the first few seasons that were pretty much dominated by Thailand, and then obviously that great run that Buriram had. But in more recent times, the Vietnamese squads have started to rise up a little bit.
Yeah,
but
we've had Cerberus,
a bit different.
Unicorn, BN United, to name a couple, but never really all of them together at the same time, the way that Thailand are kind of doing here at the moment, Jordan. So, so much to obviously still unpack and to unfold. We will go to a short break on the other side. One more game to go today. It will be Miramar once again, so don't go too far.
Back against the wall, I'm the last to fall. Even by myself, I'm gonna handle it all. Nothing you could do to stop
some updates to Destin, a new vehicle, and special new skins. All this and more as we dive into the Update 19.2 patch report. First up, Destin is getting some additional cover in several areas, as well as more cell towers, ascenders, and fuel pumps. You'll also now notice the passage of time and even shifting weather patterns in your Destin games. If your match is going long and you're starting to feel hangry, look out for the newest Battlegrounds vehicle, the food truck. This sturdy vehicle holds a driver and passenger, while up to 2 others serve up hot food and even hotter lead in the back. There's also new heavy stock in the game to try out on your favorite stock-slotted weapon. You may remember us talking about an animation refresh sometime.
E-Arena, our champions from the last game, but we're yet to find who will leave the PCS APAC arena as champion. 9 points is what is separating our top 2 teams at the moment. Cerberus still clinging on to that top position. Jordan, do you really think that they're going to be able to be the champions of APAC, or do you think they're going to be taken down by Day Trade?
I gotta be honest, I got a bit of a sneaky feeling that Day Trade might be walking away at the end of tomorrow as the champions. They have had a much better week than what Cerberus have. Even Theraton 5 have had a better week than Cerberus, but not by as drastic of a margin. I will also mention that Day Trade have had a better week than what they did in week 1, and we've still got a whole day yet to go, plus another game. So they're actually on track to put on a massive week this week, Day Trade, which would kind of go back a little bit more to what we saw from them in PCS 6. I want to actually have a quick look and see what was their biggest week from PCS 6 and sort of how that split worked out. 183 points they got in week 1 of PCS 6 and 127 in week 2. They had 104 in week 1, but I think they're definitely on track for beating 127 this week. So it probably hasn't been as explosive from Day Trade. I don't think we're going to see anyone beating 310 points, which is what they actually achieved overall last season. But with that said, yeah, I mean, I'm kind of feeling Day Trade at the moment. They seem to be the consistent force this week.
113 points this week from Day Trade. For Cerberus, 78 points. So Day Trade have done a lot of catching up, but yet still not in that top position. 9 points separating the two. Let's head into our final game of week 2, Playdate 2. A reminder, of course, that we have tomorrow, which will be our final day tomorrow. We have 5 more games. It'll be 3 Miramar and 2 Erangel to close out PCS 7 APAC tomorrow. So not quite at the finish line just yet, Jordan, but we can almost see it. We're coming around that final corner, and we'll see who's maybe going to be leading the way for that final stretch of the race.
Let's see. Indeed, it is going to be a plane path that goes over Los Leones, though, and as I've been keeping an eye on Team Bliss's drop locations since they had to start going to Zaki, I am pleased to report that they will get to drop on their main drop location at least once tonight. So that's positive news. Whether or not that's going to help them, I guess we're going to have to wait and see. But has been a tough night for them. I don't think it's been easy with the way that the plane paths have been concerned. But yeah, they're going to need to do something to salvage it here in this game. Everyone else looking relatively okay as well. We're not seeing too much of a congestion down towards the southern side of Los Leones, which is often what we do get when we get some weirder plane paths. So I'm happy with this one. A couple of teams in Impala, NGE, if they were able to get the better of Theraton 5 here, that could really throw a spanner in their works.
Yeah. Well, I think, look, at the end of the day, there's still so much to be played that even whatever happens in this game, you've got 5 games tomorrow, right? So even if Cerberus do, for whatever reason, give up that top spot, not the end of the world. Still 5 games to go. There's almost a hint of like a bit of a fairy tale, right? To go from game 1 all the way to the final game and hold top spot the entire way. But you can't get too caught up in that. You know, you can't be making decisions based on that. I don't think Cerberus would be either. That's more for us to look at as we look at whatever this is. There's something about vehicles in APAC, Jordan, whether they're sending it off cliffs or, dodging cars or flipping them. There's no other region like it when it comes to vehicles here in San Martin. They'll toot their horns, they'll go their separate ways. 777 will be happy with that one and gets back over to Hacienda because the Expendables have got a bit of work to do after that last game blank E-Arena. So as I said before, they were in the top 8. That had them in the PGC slot. Dropping out of the top 8 means that they're not in that slot. So that's kind of the job and the goal for the Expendables, not just for tonight, but obviously for tomorrow as well.
Nice game from Shen in that last. We were really sort of throwing some plaudits his way. Duckmai also having a pretty good shout in there. So top 5, not looking too shabby. It's good to see a couple of members of From the Future and Icarus in there as well. I think, you know, they've been 2 teams that haven't really been able to have the most fun in PCS 7, but decent game, last game from a couple of those members. Rossa the Junior already down early in the kill feed is horrible news for my fantasy team, but also really bad news for Theraton 5 because these Miramar games so far tonight have just not looked good for them, and it does feel as though they're falling off the pace. One other thing to mention, and I know that a couple of the more eagle-eyed people in the chat have already mentioned this, is that it is a day trade circle, right? It's gone directly over the top of Chimicera. They're basically dead center, the bullseye. And so, you know, if you say Theraton 5 is going to lose a player early, Day Trade's going to get the early, not feed, it is just phase 1, but still, the early benefit of the circle. I'm starting to put 2 and 2 together, and, you know, if I can do maths well, that equals 5.
Don't do maths, mate. Don't do maths on stream. It's a trap. But, no, I understand where you're getting at, 100%. And I think Day Trade, though, in all fairness, they've actually had a couple of circles go their way tonight. I mean, I don't want to say that's the only reason why they're in the position. Certainly by no means not. I mean, it's been a really good day 1, day 2 for week 2 so far. So the consistency there, the sample size is there to suggest that they've been able to do it themselves. But tonight, especially, just how many times have we really seen that circle edging towards Day Trade? It's happened a couple times now, but it's not everything. Chimicera as well. Ooh. I mean, that in itself, phase 1 doesn't really mean a whole lot, in my opinion. So
no,
SGD just above them. Yeah, it's nice. It's just a nice thing to have as see some more expert driving skills. Not a whole lot happening at the moment here for our final game, but to be expected, Southside Circle, Miramar, a lot of mountain rages, a lot of rotation still for those teams towards the middle, northern side of the map. Not much to really come from it. Job Jab. I've given the limelight to him, Jordan, and I hope you're in agreement with it, because I think he's had a tremendous tournament. Obviously, Skeet being the team kill leader from the previous match, but for me, Job Jab's the one that I think has been really leading the way for MS Chonburi.
I've actually always been a fan of Julio, to be honest. I feel like in a lot of the teams that he's played in, he's kind of been a bit of an unsung hero. I feel like he's a really consistent force in his rosters as well. So I actually kind of like the MSC core that they do have. It probably hasn't really overperformed or underperformed, in my opinion. I think I probably would have put them around like 5 or 6 this season in my PCS power rankings if I were to make one. But yeah, I'm a big fan of a lot of the players on that roster. So yeah, I'll say I agree. Icarus doing a bit of a number here to Buriram. This would be a bit of a disappointing end to the night for Buriram if they were to drop a couple of players here. But how do they get these two out of a sticky situation? Doesn't really look good for Nordra there to get res. Luckily, he does have the backup. Cheeksing and Kanaxi are able to put some real good cross shots in and kind of harass Jay and enough that it maybe makes it resable inside of that smoke. Icarus, though, are rotating their way across, and they really are out for blood, it looks like.
Yeah, it's not been a bad night for Buriram. Unfortunately, yesterday was probably worse for them, despite one really good game. Of course, they started tonight off with that chicken dinner. Fortunately, they get out of this position, and they desperately need to finish off strong here. Otherwise, top 4 could be out of grasp by maybe a game or 2 into tomorrow night. So they get away from that one, fortunately. And Duck Juice has been taken down. Julio will find this kill for MS Chonburi. There's a crate that's also just dropping in the background there as well, over here towards Picardo. So early kill for MS Chonburi. The Expendables losing 1. Not ideal for the Expendables, who you know, for that very brief moment in time, held APGC slot, and they've just really let it get away from them at the moment. So close, but yet so far, could end up being the headline for them by the end of tomorrow night. As we do get a replay of the fight that we actually missed earlier. And so FP, obviously, really good vantage point, good spray, but was immediately pushed back by Cheeksy. And Rossiter Jr. just pulling out of the garage.
Not how you want to be getting caught.
No.
They must have known that there was a team there, so a little bit of a risk. Insight has also gone for a little bit of a risk here. A bit of a calculated one. Does get that knock pretty comfortably onto AT. It's gone well so far, assuming he can convert that one, but he does. Just wants to make sure he gets out of there alive. I think we've seen some good moments from Team Bliss tonight.
Oh, Jowman's close here. I think he's just away from Trek. Trek, though, the barrel. Spray. Always a little bit of a gassy game as to whether or not the spray will connect. It has done enough to sort of force Jowman to spin out momentarily. He's able to keep on going, though.
Doesn't look like he's having very much fun there, Jowman, but he's out. Imas on the rotation pass is lucky to not be clipped by another one of those shots from Nordra. He goes very low. Cerberus still maintaining 4 players alive. And Himas gets himself healed back up quite nicely. Well aware of the threat above him now as well. This is not fun for Jowman in the slightest. He has really just been left for dead by his team, to be honest. They've already gone past there. Well, they're at Picardo. So he's on his own. And from the future are most certainly looking to remove him. Hisaki's actually got that knock onto Nordra. And is Duckmai pushing up the hill close? Couldn't quite tell from that view that we had. Jowman doesn't get out of this alive, does he?
No. For the record, the other 3 members of MS Chombury are just not even remotely close to him. So it's not even like the cavalry is on their way. They're not even attempting it. The other 3 over in Picardo just looting on up. So yeah, Jowman, the only thing he can kind of hope for is that from the future, just leave him and worry more about their own position inside of the circle moving forward. You know, another minute and 12 seconds till phase 2. Do you ignore him and not risk losing a player? But I mean, realistically, it's a 4-on-1. You know where he is. You've got him pinned down. You've got to go for the kill if you're from the future. So yeah, I don't think Jowman gets away.
Well, they just want to ensure that they don't lose a player in doing so, because it should be a freebie every day of the week. And there it is. Jowman down. No one's going to be there to trade him. No one's going to be there to help him out from the future. We'll be happy to pick up their freebie and get a bit of wriggle on, because they are coming down from the northern side, actually sort of mirroring the rotation that Teraton 5 had to make in the last game a little. And that did not work out for Teraton 5 at all. Obviously, Teraton 5 doing much the same thing. They're a little bit behind. They're a little bit delayed, having gone through San Martin. But both teams coming down from the north, coming quite late. So not a whole lot of areas that they can really occupy unless this ends up being a hard northern shift back up toward Monte Nuevo, which would be maybe not something that you can hope for, and certainly has not gone their way at all. So from the future, Teraton 5, I'm afraid this is not going to be a fun game.
Might be a fun game, though, for Team Bliss. Cerberus. Haytrade's also not in a bad position either. Cerberus pretty much don't necessarily have to really do a whole lot more moving from this kind of position. The only downside being not a lot of compound, not a lot of cover around that area on the road. There's some defilades, but you're not going to be wanting to hold that early. It's more of a late game thing. Orangutans on the rotation now, pushing on through Chumasera, and they got PMA close by, and I do wonder, does the Orangutans look to stop here? Well, actually, Mr. Clay is a little bit further up with the mutant in hand. He may go for the last player in the train, and it is Akita. That is unfortunately that last player. Easy kill. And Rip's actually gone and crashed into his buggy. I think actually maybe Rip was the last player. Still, doesn't change the fact that PMA get a freebie. Orangutans, do they look to now try and return serve here? And I think they will. It's just a matter of can they get the knock. KMF spins out. Surely they will be able to get him.
Oh,
surely
done.
He doesn't survive this and does not. Rip, with a bit of help from Rain, Along with Kang, they do get the kill onto KMF. 1-for-1 between PMA and the orangutans.
Yeah, Pete's out of there, quick smart. Oh, no, maybe not quick smart enough. Shots are starting to come through from Day Trade up on the top of the hill. He's going to have to turn around and just hole up inside of one of those buildings. Buriram need to be aware of E Arena creeping up the hill next to them. We'll go back over to Genius, who have got themselves a good position as well inside the zone. Here's a replay. What is this? Nice couple of taps from Utah onto Teddy, which started the unwinding of PMA by the looks of it. And speaking of that, I'm not aware of the arena, apparently, because Nordra's gone down in that meanwhile, so that's not good news. You know what I'm seeing on the minimap, Xenox, is I'm seeing Cerberus sitting dead center inside of the zone, and I'm seeing Cerberus holding on to first place at the end of this week. This is definitely looking like one of their games where they're just maybe under a bit of scoreboard pressure, and they decide, you know what, we'll get a good 10 points this game. Just keep ourselves up the top going into the final day.
I'm not so sure. I think they're very close to Day Trade, and I could see that fight really kicking off if this does go further north. Kind of forces Cerberus to maybe then push into Day Trade, or if it goes south, Day Trade pushing into Cerberus. If it does kind of just center onto Cerberus and no one really has to move, then yeah, maybe. But you know, the problem for Cerberus at the moment is they just don't have good compound. They don't have good cover. So when it comes to that position, it's fine for the time being because no one's necessarily around them, not pushing into that position too late into the phase 2 circle to try and send it dead center on the bullseye. But in the long run, it's not really safe per se. A lot of teams started to congregate towards Chumacera being practically the last city inside of this circle. Obviously, there is a little bit of Los Leonas, but a big circle coming up here. Buriram down to 3 down the bottom, along with EA Arena, NGE very south. They do get the southern shift as well on top of them. And this is where I now go back to what I was saying before. You look at Cerberus, you look at Day Trade. I just see a collision course here. Both have to move. Both have to get moving down south. Icarus already kind of in front of them. Good position for Buriram. It's a shame that they lost Nordra. Otherwise, this could have been the game for them to close the night off.
Yeah, potentially. I think with that circle shift, it actually does become quite a difficult one to call. There's like no one team that you would say is in the perfect position. And with the terrain around in that area of the map, it's kind of hard to say that any team is feeling super, super comfortable. A lot of rotation still yet to come as well. Pete, he's gotten one as Rip tried to go past, but that's actually just going to be, in the end, another point in the back pocket of Day Trade. So that's worked out really nicely for Day Trade on their chase. The rest of Origami Orangutans is going to have to leave him for dead, and off they go. Bigger things to worry about. SGD also coming down from the north. This is not the area of the map you want to be slowing down in. It's just Rat City at the moment. There's so many players hanging around waiting for rotations to come past, rotations to come through from the north, that Origami Orangutans have lost 2 already. It's down to now just Rain.
Yeah, and Icarus was one of those teams that hasn't really had to move. Day Trade hasn't necessarily moved a whole lot either. Cerberus have moved a little bit more down towards the road, more so vying for position. But pretty much all of the rotations that you speak of, Jordan, have happened out towards the west. So that's why we're seeing a lot of these teams out west, SGD, AAP, Deraton 5, obviously Icarus as well, pretty much getting involved because just nothing really happening out east. All these rotations happening in the same vicinity. Evil Patrick there in the fields goes down, courtesy of Patton Pong of T5, who has to worry about really themselves and their own rotation, now stuck. And Archangel Predator have that sort of Overwatch position above them. How does Exquisite get away from this spot? I mean, he's not even shooting at a player. He's lost in the sauce here. The nade from Mad Dog just bouncing away. Close, just needed to hold the cook a little bit longer. Obviously, I've already lost Rossiter Jr., and that's a much better nade. This one from CJ. And T5, while they did get a kill onto one of the other teams, pushing on by. And well, actually, in Evil Patrick, they obviously are going to lose their lives for it anyway. So a lot of this action happening out towards the west and towards the southwest as well. East side a little bit clear, a little bit calm at the moment.
Yeah, definitely not the end of the night that Theraton 5 was looking for. The first few games were really quite good, and it did definitely look like they were going to pressure on to Cerberus, and they were ahead of Daytrade at one point, but they have really fallen off a little bit, and it leaves them with a lot of work to do tomorrow. Push coming in here from SGD onto Mr. Clay, who's already gotten himself one. The flash, though, will result in the final kill, and PMA out in 16th. But they've been a bit of a thorn in the side of a bunch of teams tonight. And I think they can actually be semi-happy with their night, to be honest. SGD look like they're going to go down as a result of this as well. Jervis was finished off. Shen down on the floor. They've only got one left alive. We'll jump back over to Cerberus for a moment as they continue to pick up some more points. 227 now. One step further away from everyone else as they pick up that extra kill.
Yeah, and not a bad spot either. It's almost like a little crossroads position, bowl orientation as well for the landscape, and then expecting teams to be rotating through the roads as well. And, you know, kind of like a roadblock, if you will, if teams were to rotate. It's unfortunate. Most of the teams rotating were on the western side, so the side that Cerberus were on didn't really see a whole lot of action. So they don't quite get much from it, but I think they've actually played the circle really, really well. Not only that, but moving now as well for this Phase 4 circle, Cerberus have actually got arguably best spot. So they've actually moved and played this really, really well. Looking to create, looking to be the first team to get into these good positions, whereas, like, you know, I'm looking at Daytrade, who are quite stagnant this game. They're not really moving. They're just happy and content to hold up north, not really get into these fights that we're seeing out west.
Well, Canaxi's going to keep pushing his way forward. He's been hearing these shots from Ranger X, and he knows this is going to be a free kill if he just slides that molly into the hut through the window. A flash out, though, from Ranger X. It's not going to work. Edie was covering nicely. Theraton 5 out in 14th. It's been a disappointing end to the night for them. And Cerberus, they are starting to accelerate now as well. 3 kills in this game. Haisaki does get knocked by Monty. Himas as well.
Oh, wow. Double.
I mean, I know we're watching Job Jab, but he's just sitting in a smoke. This is serious stuff going on.
Yeah.
If Cerberus is losing players, that's big news.
No, well, they're safe because it's just long-range knocks here from Monty.
They've lost Haisaki.
The old standard Miramar long-range knock coming into play there. Obviously, when you only see it in the kill feed, you're never quite sure as to the validity of it, but no, they'll get revived. Big name from Balmont, though. No reviving these two. And he'll confirm the nade onto both Utah and Glorious. I don't think he was expecting the position of Glorious to be behind the smoke, considering the nade somehow got both of them. A really good, well-positioned nade. It's Nan. Last one alive for AAP. JN, he can't spot him. Oh, yes, he can, apparently, but JN, good headshot back the other way. Gets the kill, wipes out AAP, but he'll be the last one standing for Icarus. As they try and get off the bottom of the standings, now 2 points behind from the future. AAP in 10th go out, and GE on the move, going by Cerberus.
Yeah, Daytrade is just farming the northern side of the map. They have completely cleared out the top side of this cliff. Look at where they've ended up. This is awesome. I guess depends on where this zone shift does go, but if it goes in any way, shape, or form north, it's bad news for everyone. Everyone apart from Daytrade will have to wait with bated breath. Team Bliss have a bit of a 2-2 split. That looks nice for them. They can bring Mirage and Bryn down to inside, and Monty sweep through the entire eastern side of the map and start to look toward a victory to salvage their day. I think it's good, all things considered, that Daytrade are going to get pushed off of this cliff completely. Otherwise, they would have had just way too strong of a position to play from.
Yeah.
There's actually a lot of high ground around this zone, and it's moved away from that, which is really good. But it has put Cerberus dead center. So I dare say they're going to be getting quite a few placement points and probably another kill point or two out of the next 10 minutes.
Well, the irony is that where Daytrade is rotating at the moment is exactly where Cerberus was at the start of Phase 4. And what did Cerberus do? They moved from that position. So Daytrade is almost like a whole circle behind. As Job Jab, speaking of behind, gets from the future from inside of the blue. Nice quick little 2 kills. And on 1 HP, survives, gets into the zone. Perfectly played by Job Jab. Needed points for MS John Burry back into 6th as well. But yeah, Daytrade, they've got a couple of kills this game, but that's the timing on that. Come on.
The timing.
Yeah. Kill for cheating, that was all too easy while you're watching the final kill there onto the orangutans. The replay from Monty before the double knock. I mean, look,
great.
It's impressive. Great shots. Such as Miramar. Very difficult to convert those downs into eliminations. But yeah, the timing on that replay maybe not the best. Zizzy with a good nade though onto something else from Genius Esports. They've got one standing. That's Simon T over towards the right. Zizzy trying to just scout the field here, but can't spot him immediately. Just on the circle edge here for phase 5. Minute and 15 seconds. Cerberus, best position. Team Bliss though, 4 players alive. A little bit of a higher ground position out east. 8 teams left. Placement points on offer.
Well, E-Arena definitely want to confirm that kill onto something else. I can tell you what, it's done. Might have been a bit of overkill. So many pieces of util getting tossed in his direction. But Simon T as well, also a bit of a factor. Day trade in an engagement against Team Bliss and Boomerang as well. Have lost Flash down onto the ground. He should be resable, it looks like. Couple of taps coming through here from Belmoth as well, just to try to keep Boomerang thinking. Keeping them ducking and diving rather than shooting. Flash was confirmed actually by Insight. So Cerberus have lost a player. Daytrade have lost a player. Everyone toward the top end of the standings is dropping players here and there. E-Arena in 7th. The highest placed team with 4 alive.
It's massive for Team Bliss though. They need to finish strong in this game if they're going to have any hope going into tomorrow night. At the moment, 20 points behind that sort of top 10 position that they will need to find themselves in if they are to go to PGC. So it obviously hasn't been their kind of night, hence why they're in the bottom 3 at the moment. But you've got 3 kills. You've got a really good position inside of this zone now for phase 6 as well. Still, look at that hill that Monty currently occupies out east. Not only that, but you're going to now need Mirage and Bryn to group up. Join with Insight and Monty. Clear out those teams south of you. That's MS Stromberry, NGE. Get kills there. Although at the moment, I think they've got eyes on Daytrade first. Get rid of them, clear the north side, then push south. And here comes Norrens along with the rest of Daytrade. I do believe they're getting shot at the moment by Team Bliss. Yeah, Norrens goes down. That's 2. So well watched and well waited for Team Bliss. They've been waiting for Daytrade to make their move, and they have pounced from a distance. Poochills does get to this position at the hay bales, stays alive. But Bliss are picking up points. They do need to worry about position. He does die to Mirage. That is an annihilation. And Team Bliss out of the bottom 3.
Yeah, that's a big kill for, well, a bunch of big kills for Team Bliss, to be honest. Daytrade, they will not be able to overtake Cerberus, obviously, tonight. So Cerberus, going into the final day of PCS 7, will maintain first place. How far can they stretch that lead out, though, is going to be the big question mark. And, of course, for Team Bliss, it finally feels like it's coming together at the end of day 2 of week 2. They've jumped themselves back up into 12th. If they can somehow convert this into a win, they could even start to look at a top 10 placing at the end of the night. And maybe that'll be enough to give them some confidence heading into tomorrow. They're in a really good spot. Monty's having a great game. He's been doing a lot of damage, and maybe this is the game for Team Bliss that they've been looking for. It's been a long time coming. NGE and E-Arena, though, do both have still 4 players alive. Cerberus also having 3, and Cerberus can do a lot with 3. I'll tell you that much. Zizzy's down on the floor. E-Arena, they're not making it clean at all. Cerberus are doing an absolute number to them.
So Junior's gone. 5 teams remaining. Lyrics, does he survive this? I think he doesn't survive the situation. Cheating does stand up and finds the kill. So now it's only Sapniks for E-Arena. Definitely not going to see them find the chicken dinner this time. And Monty finds a knock onto Tycon. You can actually see in the minimap, Bryn pushing all the way out towards the north side, trying to get vision on this fight. Team Bliss sensing that this could be the game for them to find kills, to really bring home a massive game going into tomorrow, to renew that confidence that they desperately need. Insight and Bryn together. Monty and Mirage holding that mountainside on the eastern side of this circle, and they can obviously see all the way to this western position. It's just a matter of how many kills are they going to get from this.
It's a really good push from Team Bliss. They know that they cleared out the entire northern side of the map when Daytrade came across. They had great shots on that, and there was no one else around here. So big push in from Bryn and Insight. The only thing to be aware of course, is Monty and Mirage. If they somehow get crept upon by NGE, then that's going to be really problematic. Nade across looks to be a decent one, and it connects onto both. No kill coming through there, but Insight has got that knock on to Cheeksing.
Bliss win.
And Bryn is continuing to push his way forward. A good circle shift for Bliss, as you've mentioned. Inside and Bryn, they want to clear out these extra kill points, but they have to ensure they don't lose a player in doing so.
That is actually really true here. They're so aggressive at this point despite having the circle, but they're also at a point where there's only 5 games left after this. They need kill points. They need to start climbing that leaderboard. They backed themselves in. Insight got 80, but Bryn couldn't quite finish off Cheeks in 10 HP. 8 kills, though, for Team Bliss. They're climbing the mountain. They're climbing that leaderboard. Cheating stays alive, heals on up, peeks back, but Bryn's watching and just putting the pressure on Buriram.
Darkmar goes down for Monty as well. So Cerberus are starting to lose players here and there as well. The biggest threat is going to be NGE. Bryn, he needs to win this duel. You can't be dropping that. It's going to be 3 players now for Bliss, unless Insight can save the day. He pushes forward. He knows what he needs to do. Bryn, he was a sliver of HP.
Oh my days! Insight's got him up! What a play from Insight to understand what he needed to do. The veteran game sense coming through from Insight, and Bryn's up and running. Tycon watching the warehouse of NGE. Got one onto Young B. But will he get much more? He'll go down for it, courtesy of Van. It's NGE and Cerberus
killing
going
each other.
toe-to-toe, taking each other out. Team Bliss, smell blood in the water. They are like vultures looking to pick the carcasses of Cerberus and NGE and see what's left to find. Out of the bottom 4 and back in contention for a PGC slot going into tomorrow night. Himas in a 1 versus 4. What a turnaround.
There is no way Team Bliss can lose this one. Himas a 1v4. He's a good player, but I'm not going to give him a 1v4. Team Bliss, they know how important this win is going to be for them. It'll get them into the top 10, I think, just. And they found him. They've spotted him. Himas now under the pump. Tries to escape, but the reality is this is more of a victory lap than anything else for Team Bliss. They go pushing their way forward. It's a 1-for-1 trade, but it won't matter. Team Bliss, a 12-kill win. And man, they have been searching for that. And is that enough confidence booster heading into tomorrow to keep them in that race for PGC? You mentioned how important that could be. I think they're just in it. I think they're just in with a sniff, but those 5 games tomorrow still remain incredibly important for Team Bliss.
Well, the hashtag is Bliss Up, and that's exactly what they've been able to do with that game. Go up the leaderboard from basically bottom 3, Jordan, to 10th place, and 10th place might be enough for them. It might put them in the position with 5 games to go. What it does do, regardless of all of the mathematics and all of the calculations, as you said, they're in with a sniff. And I think they got a big sniff now off the back of that. So much work still to be done going into tomorrow night. 5 games still to be played. The miracle, the dream from a slow PCS event to maybe still making it through is not there just yet, hasn't been fully realized. What a day, what a game as well. And Cerberus, Jordan, obviously on the main point of the standings, they've done it again. They've gotten away with it again, where the gap closes, they extend it. 16 points to that top spot to second. It happens every single time. 4 or 5 times now we've seen that happen from single digits back out to double digits. Literally the next game. Big one from Cerberus, big one from Team Bliss. What a way to close out day 2 here for week 2. Of course, one more day tomorrow. Just making sure, because we obviously... Oh, there's so much to break down. There really is. The Expendables, Jordan, 1 position away from a PGC slot. There's so much calculations to go into 5 games left. We just don't have the time to break it all down.
I don't want to be doing it at the moment either. I'm not 100% sure of how it all sort of calculates myself. I think we're going to have to do a little bit of work overnight tonight and figure out exactly which team's going to have to place where for, you know, what team to go through to PGC. Yeah. And all the teams are going to have to do that as well, right? If you're, as you say, maybe an Expendables or a Team Bliss or whatever, one of those teams that's like obviously in the race but not confirmed, there's going to be a necessity to sort of be going into tomorrow knowing what you need to do. Cerberus, Day Trade, Theraton 5, I think we can all kind of agree that they're pretty much going through, no questions asked, to PGC. But what those couple of other slots are going to be looking like, we're not too sure just yet. Yeah, tomorrow, 5 big games. Team Bliss into 10th place, but they're only 2 points behind the Expendables. And obviously, the Expendables is one of those other teams that's kind of in the race for a PGC spot. So if Team Bliss can sort of take over the Expendables, maybe that's just enough. Don't really know just yet. This is the match leaderboard, though, for that last game. 22 points out for Team Bliss. As you say, though, Cerberus, again, diamonds are forged under pressure, and they really held strong, didn't they, in those last couple of games of the day?
22 points, massive performance, especially on the night, Jordan, where we've looked at the evenness of this competition. We had at least, I think, one game where it was like 11, 11, 11 in terms of points being sort of spread between teams. To get 22 points, that's a statement performance there. And from Insight, 5 kills, 700 damage. What the stats don't show you, though, is that clutch play to get the trade for Bryn and the revive to then push out of the blue. If he dies there, if he loses that fight to Cheeking, suddenly there's only 2 Bliss players left alive, and the chances that them winning that game suddenly diminishes. So really, really big performance from Insight. Overall, though, team performance and a better performance from them in the way they were pushed out. The aggressive play that we saw from them at the end is something we didn't see in week 1. So they've obviously done their homework, looked at how they can improve, and they're bringing that here into week 2. So kudos to them. Cerberus, top spot though, 16 points. Like we've said time and time again, every time they're challenged, every time it gets to single digits, it got as low as 2 or 3 points. Back out to 16, doesn't matter. Obviously not too much pressure when it comes to day trade. They're going to go to PGC, Jordan, but they would like back-to-back PCS events. Theraton 5 have dropped off the top 2 slightly. SGD, Buriram, both vying for PGC slots as well at the moment. SGD would be looking a little bit ahead of Buriram. So a lot to unfold and to sort of look over going into tomorrow. As we've basically talked about really at the start of the show and even almost as far back as last week, it feels like there's almost 3 different storylines at play here, Jordan. You've got the top teams, you've got the teams then vying for PGC that didn't play in PCS 6, and then the teams that are vying for PGC that have played in both, that being Bliss, Expendables, and AAP. So obviously we'll know a little bit more as we get closer to the games tomorrow. Still 5 games means it's still too hard to predict.
Yeah, a lot of Miramar games coming up tomorrow as well, though.
Yeah.
So those teams that do favor Miramar are going to be a little bit more comfortable going into tomorrow than they were today. Yeah, I think looking at the storylines coming into today versus the storylines going out of today, not a whole lot really has changed. Like the 3 teams that we had locked in obviously still remain toward the top of the scoreboard. The other teams that were kind of still in the mix are probably still the ones that are having a look in, right? Obviously, Archangel Predator, they seem like a bit of an outside chance still. The Expendables and Team Bliss, they're maybe a little bit more likely, but you also have to think about SGD, maybe even Buriram at this point as well, depending on how tomorrow goes. So a lot of those teams that we sort of touched on and highlighted today, it felt like kind of just did enough to keep themselves in that conversation going into tomorrow, but also similarly didn't do enough to basically lock anyone else in apart from those teams that were kind of already confirmed. So yeah, still 5 games to go, still a lot to play for, and still one of the tightest PCS events that I think we've actually seen in quite a while.
Yeah, it's not often with 5 games to go. We just don't know who's going to win this event. Still too many things to unfold. So make sure you join us again tomorrow night. 5 games remaining for PCS 7 APAC. You won't want to miss it.